Bueno, vamos a apuntar entonces aquí que necesitamos prestar atención al lenguaje que se utiliza, lo cual últimamente pues va a ayudar en cuanto a este. Ahora en la tercera página encontré una parte que dice, bueno, es algo que tenemos que corregir. No, esta es la primera vez que se lee. Vamos a volver a tener otra oportunidad, porque la siguiente también se va a considerar como la primera lectura, porque hay muchos cambios, porque este comité pues ha tenido varias cosas de las que se encarga, así que en en cuanto a los niños con comportamiento de abusones, mm, pues hay ciertas iniciativas en cuanto a ciertos comportamientos. El número 4, sí, es algo de lo que hemos estado hablando. Esto se asemeja al comentario público que hicimos anteriormente.
Well, see, you know how we need to get back to doing assemblies at schools.
Bueno, ya ve que pues últimamente no hemos llevado a cabo asambleas en las escuelas, pero sí, como padres, si yo tengo una pregunta, yo voy a querer saber si algo cambió, qué cambió, por qué cambió, qué tengo yo que hacer.
And we need all of that. And it's not fair to our parents if we don't give them the same education that their children are getting in regards to bullying and how to prevent and what if your child is the one being bullied and what to do and the whole gamut. That's a part of
Ah,
the trauma right?
bueno, en cuanto a esto de los problemas con cuando los niños se portan como abusones contra otros, si su niño es el que está siendo em, tratado de esta forma o es el que trata a otros de esta forma, como padres, pues tenemos que también educar, porque eso pues forma parte de lo que también se tiene que hacer. Y en la siguiente página, yo no sé, yo no vi nada que estuviera escrito ahí en cuanto a estas conductas cuando son por medio de los medios sociales. ¿Dónde es que está? Sí, al final, en el último párrafo. Pero sí, eso no es suficiente. Porque si hubieron cambios o en cuanto a las iniciativas, perdón, ¿dónde? En número 13, bajo políticas, último párrafo. Y, y en, bueno, en cuanto al tráfico de menores, hay, es algo separado, pero hay ciertos comportamientos que pueden llevar a- al tráfico de menores. Entonces, eso es todo lo que queremos evitar y minimizar. Y esto recae bajo otra, otra sección. Pienso que lo que está escrito aquí no es lo suficientemente fuerte,
I mean, this correct. This heading is bullying, so it's all
porque
about
aquí se trata
other
acerca
kids.
de ese comportamiento,
What
de
this is about
cuando se portan como abusones,
and what it means.
I mean, I do like that, we
y
do
sí me gusta que
think about this, and these are those hard conversations, right?
queremos pensar acerca de esto y son esas conversaciones difíciles en cuanto a que hay estudiantes, pues han habido tiroteos, balaceras en las escuelas. Entonces, muchas veces lo que los llevó a hacer lo que hicieron fue porque alguien los trataba de esta forma, alguien los humillaba, los trataba mal y los orilló a hacer esto. Entonces, lo que queremos es prevención, porque son nuestros estudiantes, independientemente.
Yes, this is student on student. Right.
O sea, pero esto es algo que ocurre de estudiante a estudiante.
With assemblies at all different grade levels, regardless from PK to eighth grade, assemblies and conversations of this type need to be happening so that
Bueno, durante las asambleas que se llevan a cabo, estas conversaciones se tienen que llevar a cabo. Estamos hablando de entre kinder y el octavo grado, porque necesitan haber estándares en combinación con otras cosas.
certain pieces that what we're going to be introducing to their children and what conversations are going to be had.
Porque pues queremos hablar con los padres acerca de las conversaciones que vamos a llevar a cabo con sus hijos para avisarles como padres. Pero sí, estas conversaciones, pues necesitamos escucharnos porque últimamente pues queremos asegurarnos de que los padres están entendiendo y tienen ciertas expectativas de que su hijo ahora va a tener la capacidad de poder hablar de algunas cosas, o sea, que sea hecho más normal, o sea, que se normalice al punto de que uno pueda, pues, hablarlo, explicarlo. Y sí, me parece que es bien importante hacerlo correctamente, sí, estoy de acuerdo. Sí, tal vez, digamos, en las asambleas y también cuando se hacen talleres con los padres, pero y también asambleas con los estudiantes. Queremos que nuestros padres sean educados en cuanto a las herramientas, a su disponibilidad en cuanto a sus hijos. Y de esa forma también podemos educar a nuestros jóvenes, darles herramientas en cuanto a cómo ayudarse ellos mismos, cómo ayudar a otros.
You have an assembly, the student goes, they come home, and they're like, Mom, Dad, Grandma, whoever, I heard this. We should have the guardian, let's call guardian, be informed prior to,
Right.
so that they're able to be like, oh, I know you were gonna go there. I'm ready to talk about it. This is how.
So we should have a preemptive.
Lo que queremos es que los padres sepan de antemano que esta conversación se va a llevar a cabo. Entonces, por ejemplo, el niño llega a casa de una asamblea y le dice, mamá, papá, se está hablando de este tema, pero de antemano ya van a saber. Y son conversaciones que se tienen que llevar a cabo. Y eso también puede ayudar al jovencito, al niño que tal vez no habla mucho, el padre, los que son callados, para que los padres puedan ayudarles a hablar acerca del tema, porque son cosas que les queremos añadirlas al currículum. Porque como comunidad estamos participando todos en esto. Y ese sería número 3, o sea, la creación de estos apoyos. Y la cosa es de que también queremos celebrar todo tipo de diferencias y queremos tolerar, celebrar las diferencias.
They say equity and inclusion.
Y queremos usar palabras como equidad, inclusión. En la página 2, en la última oración, en vez de poner que es para los jóvenes, sería, disculpe que escuché, no escuché la última palabra.
I think it
Ahora, en
should be
cuanto al
different.
lenguaje
I think
que se
it's
está usando, me parece que es algo que podemos agregar ahí.
I see this particular board policy is student on student bullying. The
Sí.
other elevation of what the other topic is that a whole, I'm not sure what board policy that in its might be digital
Safety or digital.
Bueno, yo,
Parents don't even realize that it's a crime. They have not a clue.
Well, wait a minute, are you talking about like?
A girl takes a picture of herself and sends it to her boyfriend.
But
That
that's not
boy-
bullying, but is that bullying?
Yes, it is, because then that boy
Because the
sends
boy
it
might
to
have
other
solicited,
boys.
yeah.
ok, entonces
Cyberbullying.
yo esto lo veo como de estudiante a estudiante y la cosa es de que a veces hay situaciones en las cuales las jovencitas, digamos, una se toma una foto de sí misma, se la envía a su novio, el novio se la envían a alguien más. Entonces esto puede llevar a un delito y no tienen ni idea de la seriedad. La jovencita no tiene idea tampoco acerca de cómo ese texto puede perjudicar.
For multimedia texts of a personal nature or sexual nature.
Si estamos hablando acerca de textos de índole, de índole sexual, ahora,
When they say the word, this is how things happen. When they say the child was molested, the child was raped.
Right.
They think using a different word makes it okay. That's my.
bueno, y yo escucho lo que usted me está
The actual sexual acts of some sort,
Right.
and although it is technically pornographic, they,
Maybe say pornographic photography.
or explain what it is. It goes back to
tier
tier
one,
one,
tier
tier two.
una de las cosas es, por ejemplo, cuando se estaba hablando de y de
Well, this is where the task
un
force.
comportamiento
that has their-
Emails of a personal
Reaccionar
nature or with
que
any.
más que ninguno de los
I think the task force really needs to kind of dig in a little bit more on the cyber.
But that's why I feel so strongly about this, because I have seen this happen.
Well, the thing is that our kids
pornográfico mucho,
growing up with this technology, this is
algunas
second nature to them as young as
pensando
3, 4,
como
5, 6.
no, ya tiene que ver con acto sexual. No está nos está hablando de una fotografía de este,
I don't know. I don't know. Let's let these guys figure it out. We'll forward it to legal counsel. Yeah. We'll
Pues-
forward it to legal counsel.
Yeah,
Asun-
but I think I would like the committee to kind of dig a little deeper into what
Right.
that would look like and what is out there for that. Because
y la cosa es de que como es un asunto legal y lo que queremos es investigar más y ver qué lenguaje han utilizado en otros lugares, algo similar. Queremos investigar.
Yeah.
Sí.
I just want the children protected, that's all.
Yo lo que quiero es que los niños estén protegidos, es todo.
I went along pretty well till we got to the dress code.
Y todo iba bien así, en como está escrito, hasta que llegamos a la parte donde habla acerca de la vestimenta, o sea, el código que delinea cuál es la vestimenta apropiada.
With campus disturbances or, yeah, the wording in it.
En cuanto a las palabras que vamos a utilizar acá,
Yeah, I thought so too.
sí, a mí me pareció igual.
It fell apart for me was dress and grooming.
porque para mí que tiene que ver con la forma en que se visten y la forma en que se arreglan. Entonces lo podemos poner bajo esta parte también. 32.
Some of the principles I have trouble with.
Con algunos de los principios tengo dificultades.
You know, the dress code should serve to support the children's learning and education.
O sea que la idea es de que la vestimenta tiene que apoyar los fines de la institución, o sea, estamos aquí para aprender. Ese es nuestro trabajo.
And it says here, like, the student dress code should serve to support all students to develop a body positive self-image. Well, we're here to educate.
That body positive self-image may not be something we can accomplish because every person feels the way they feel about their body, whether they like it or not, and we can always pick at our bodies, right? And
Sí, porque aquí se había mencionado el lenguaje en cuanto a decir que lo que queremos es de que los niños tengan una imagen positiva de sí mismos y cómo la vestimenta va a contribuir a eso, pero realmente tal vez no es algo que podamos lograr porque cada individuo pues tiene sentimientos acerca de su propio cuerpo. Pero realmente nosotros estamos aquí en este plantel para educar y para que los niños se sientan bienvenidos, se sientan seguros,
regardless of
independientemente de lo que tienen puesto,
their clothing or whatever,
independientemente de su vestimenta,
for kids, we shouldn't make it about that.
eh,
It should be
es
about
algo acerca de los niños.
and making
Se trata de por qué razón se ponen lo que se ponen. Y la
you
cosa es de que todos somos iguales
that we
y quitar el estigma del valor que se le asigna. Oh, porque ella, es que ella tiene este bolso, es que ella trae esto puesto.
it's about
No se trata de eso,
as a person.
se trata de quiénes son como personas.
Make it to where it's a fashion statement.
No hacerlo como que es una declaración que tiene que ver con la moda.
But I think that's tailored, or maybe it should be tailored to older teenagers, right? Because our district is K through 8. And so we have to look developmentally, right? There's some things for this age and there's some things for this age, right? And I think
Sí,
that's
porque digamos, tal vez este lenguaje que se ha utilizado en cuanto a la imagen positiva, pues tiene que ver con adolescentes, pero realmente los estudiantes que tenemos acá son del kinder al octavo, entonces están en una etapa de desarrollo.
really fleshing this out a little more. I don't want to change something that, you were teaching for a lot of years, you've been on campus. I can see, from a societal perspective, but then from a parenthood, and then you're on campus. I worked on campus too.
Yeah.
In the middle school.
Sabe que necesitamos pensar acerca de esto más. Y muchos de nosotros tenemos muchos años como educando, pero queremos ver cuáles son las perspectivas sociales. Queremos ver,
So wrapped up in their clothes. And what about the kids that can't afford new clothes?
bueno, y la cosa es de que también hay niños que le ponen mucha atención a la vestimenta que traen puesto, otros niños que no tienen dinero para estar comprando cosas especiales.
For like, let's say an overweight girl who wants to wear something that's
Trendy
a little
clothes.
tight or trendy, right? And maybe tease for or whatever. Again, we're going back to culture, right? If we're creating a culture of acceptance, if we're creating a culture of respect and empathy.
Bueno, todo regresa al principio de aceptación y crear una cultura de aceptación. Lo que queremos es que cada quien tenga su individualidad y poder mostrar de qué forma es especial. Pero si digamos tenemos el ejemplo de una jovencita que está un poco pasada de peso y ella quiere ponerse cierta vestimenta que es como que tiene que ver con estar a la moda. Y pues em,
It almost taught them to like be more protected. Like they didn't wear it again. I mean, not that.
pues esto, digamos que ya se pone algo así, pues puede que se burlen de ella, pero también, claro, hay lecciones que pueden salir de esto, lecciones de la vida.
That's really open about body positivity and being able to just be you without being sexualized. Her argument is sexualization happens not from her, but from the outside coming in, and that she shouldn't have to change the way she dresses just because they choose to objectify her. So-
Bueno, la cosa, por ejemplo, hablando acerca de lo positivo, o sea, tener una imagen positiva corporal, ¿verdad? Y cómo no queremos, lo que no queremos es sexualizarlos, ¿verdad? Si es una joven de 14 años, porque hay algunos que se sienten que estos cambios vienen de por fuera, pero lo que yo estoy diciendo es,
What I'm trying to say is that I don't think many of them have the ability to hold their own on.
But see, to me, it's, Jim and I have this conversation, it's a distraction from learning.
Yeah.
If a young man, has a young lady sitting in front of him with,
anyone.
or anyone. Or,
Right.
a young man sitting in front of a young lady as well with his pants way down. It's a distraction. To me, it's, the clothing, I get it's a fashion statement and kids want to
I've
wear
had
the
some things
latest.
happen in a classroom.
bueno,
that-
entonces, por ejemplo, bueno, hemos hablado de esto anteriormente, cómo esto es una distracción cuando estamos aquí para aprender, ¿verdad? ¿Qué tal si hay un jovencito, se sienta una joven enfrente de él, o digamos viceversa, el jovencito se sienta enfrente, trae los pantalones muy bajos y claro, eso es una distracción. Y por eso estamos hablando acerca de cambiar el lenguaje de forma que aquí habla acerca de cada estudiante, ya sea, ya sea niña, niño. Lo que queremos es ser neutrales, pero aquí estamos hablando de comportamientos de estudiante a estudiante.
Task force or district administration to engage with PTA and TESTA.
Yes.
Bueno, y como estábamos hablando anteriormente, en cuanto a que puede haber un comité que se encarga de esto y la administración del distrito, y el punto es que nos queremos enfocar en la educación. Ese es nuestro trabajo.
And the self-awareness of, if we're dealing with the correct type of, clothing, body shaming and self-image. I maybe I'm getting just too old. I don't know. I'm having a hard time.
My personal opinion is,
Bueno, yo quiero hablar acerca de, de cómo queremos lidiar con este comportamiento directamente. En cuanto a hablar de cómo la imagen de las personas, o sea, basado en lo que se pone en la imagen, cómo otros lo pueden hacer sentir mal.
Maybe at home, they're not gonna care what their kid wears, but they have to have like separate clothing to send their child to school and to meet the dress code. And then there's shaming that goes on if a child comes to school in something.
So I'm just asking them to wear a blouse, but I'm asking them to wear a blouse that's not a spaghetti strap. And I'm asking them to wear a blouse that covers their midriff.
I get that, but when they go home, maybe their parents say, you can wear what you want.
So,
And now that's two pieces of clothing versus one piece of clothing. I had to send my kids to school in San Jose to full uniform schools. I was so offended because I didn't want to make them themselves.
Este es otro ejemplo. Por ejemplo, para padres que tienen niños que, digamos, en casa se pueden poner cierta vestimenta y al llegar a la escuela se ponen otra vestimenta. Y no estamos hablando de, o sea, podemos esperar que los niños no lleguen a la escuela y se pongan tirantitos o una blusa muy abierta o que se les vea parte del abdomen, ¿verdad? Pero y si en casa los padres dicen que sí se pueden poner eso, pues van a tener que comprar dos pares de ropa, uno que se puedan poner en casa, otro que se puedan poner en la escuela. Eh, yo lo que no quiero es que se vuelva algo sexualizado, lo tuerzan de una forma negativa. Y ahí es donde, por eso tenemos estas reglas. Hay una razón por la que tenemos leyes.
Because we have to learn to manage ourselves as individuals and live amongst different ways of thinking.
Right.
And so to incorporate that into how our kids grow up into a society where rules apply to all, right? Whether we like them or not, but there are laws, there's everything is enforced for a reason. Speeding.
Ok, entonces, cuando estamos hablando acerca de que todos estamos viviendo en un entorno en el cual hay muchas formas diferentes de pensar y queremos ayudarles a nuestros niños a poder pensar como individuos, pero formar parte de estas diferentes formas, em, o sea, o por lo menos entender las diferentes formas de pensar, porque
Manage to control the hormones and I just wanted to keep it respectful, right? So that kids can come to school feeling
One of the
like
things,
they're gonna be okay.
one of the things that happened in
bueno, lo que queremos es que poder manejar esto. Los niños, los jóvenes tienen dificultad manejando los efectos de sus hormonas, pero queremos que sea algo respetuoso.
socially where women were accused when they were raped that they asked for it because of their dress. And you said, well, if a tank top, if a tube top gets pulled, they won't wear it again.
No, I said some.
Okay, well, but still it's the same.
Pero aquí estamos hablando acerca de la seguridad, ¿verdad? Entonces, muchas de las mujeres que han sido violadas, pues ellas saben que la vestimenta muchas veces tuvo algo que ver con eso.
So if we're teaching them respect and
But I understand, but
Pero si queremos enseñarles el respeto,
their puberty, their hormones are everywhere. And that's why I say, at this age, what we're dealing with are children that don't have control to deal with that stuff, and we should leave it out. Have them, just wear a regular blouse, wear, regular pants. And, this to me is because we're here to learn.
bueno, yo lo que quiero enfatizar es de que estamos aquí para aprender y lo que queremos que se pongan ropa adecuada para el aprendizaje. Entonces, por ejemplo, una blusa normal, un pantalón normal.
in like the clothing that covers, those
I had a
spots.
boy who had on sweats and totally took his pants off.
He took them off.
Yes, and he was sitting right next to her.
So
Bueno, yo vi una situación en la cual un jovencito traía de esos pantalones, los sweatpants, o sea, que son así que son casi como tipo pijama, es ropa para deportes, y lo que él hizo se los quitó enfrente de una niña.
Because he's not supposed to wear those kind of pants.
Pero para empezar, se supone que no se debe de poner este tipo de pantalón.
The page before the last, the page that talks about, hair and grooming, head coverings, 1, 2, 3. I'm glad that they put in hair and grooming styles, right, that those,
Oh, yeah.
people, because that's been a long time coming. I'm glad they included head coverings.
Bueno, aquí también estamos hablando en esta página acerca de cómo la forma en que se arregla la persona, ¿verdad? Ah, ya teníamos mucho tiempo en el cual se necesitaba hablar de esto. ah, y ese está en la sección donde habla acerca de eh,
because
cuando se cubren la cabeza.
when someone that could be seen as a stereotype that is gang affiliated. And I've said that over the years, and I have to be honest and stay true to how, and that is a part of school to prison pipe. That because there's a child who's wearing baggy pants, that they get targeted as gang related, when not knowing that they are borrowing their siblings' clothes or that
Loose
they're
clothing.
or loose clothing because they're low income and parents said, I'm gonna buy you an exercise, you grow into it, so I have to buy, I know I've done that or
Bueno, muchas veces lo que pasa, digamos que aquí cuando hablamos acerca de la vestimenta, ¿verdad? Hay cierta vestimenta que muchas veces la asociamos, ¿verdad? Con las pandillas. Y digamos que el niño se viste de cierta forma y entonces se empieza a pensar que el niño tiene cierta afiliación con una pandilla y lo empiezan a molestar los demás niños, pero en realidad lo que pasa es de que el niño está tomando parte de la ropa de su hermano mayor porque muchos padres pues le compran ropa al mayor y parte de esa ropa el menor también se pone la misma. Y no quiere decir que tenga alguna afiliación con las pandillas, ¿verdad? Pero tal vez no entiende del todo cómo puede ser percibido.
But what page are you on? It looks like there's no page number right now.
Lo tenemos aquí en la página 5, en la parte de arriba.
Yeah, and those can change.
I'm glad they said that, those can change depending on.
Y me da gusto que hayan puesto aquí que estas cosas pueden cambiar, porque sí cambian.
Well, I think it's ridiculous because you can go I can remember there was a time all the kids came in purple. Okay, well, they could all come in orange. It's ridiculous. Right.
Bueno, aquí eso es ridículo lo que está, porque habían ciertos momentos en que les pedíamos que pusieran cierto color, entonces venían todos los niños vestidos de morado, o venían todos los niños vestidos de anaranjado, así que,
Is it,
¿qué incluye esto?
is it the swastika? Is it, yeah, is it anti-Muslim? Is it, you know what I mean? Like, what is it?
What does that look like?
Yeah. What does it include and what does it look like?
Bueno, y queremos ser más específicos, o sea, hay ciertas cosas que no vamos a permitir, como por ejemplo la suástica o algo que sea contra los musulmanes o cosas específicas.
For having, they couldn't wear a bear, they couldn't wear, North Cal, they couldn't wear any of those things.
Right, that's ridiculous.
And, which,
They couldn't wear Raiders, now that's it.
Bueno, y la cosa es de que llegó a ser tan generalizado que cuando los niños se ponían, por ejemplo, un oso, se metían en problemas, o cuando se ponían, por ejemplo, las camisetas que decían NorCal, también con eso se ponían en problemas, metían en problemas. Y ahora con los Raiders,
I'd like to go back to this page here, which is this the second or third? The second page. What students must wear.
vamos a regresar a la segunda página. Lo que los estudiantes deben ponerse, zapatos, asuntos de seguridad.
It has to be closed-toed shoes. And, yeah. And that's, calosh, so kids, they're in the same deal there. So.
Bueno, para nosotros pues tenemos que tenerlo tipo de zapato cerrado porque Cal OSHA tiene sus políticas en cuanto a ello. Y también por asuntos de compensación al trabajador.
They're not allowed to have cell phones.
Wait, what if they wear a hoodie? What if they wear a hoodie and they can't put the hood up? They can wear the hoodie, but they don't have to have their hood up.
Right.
Oh, yeah, I don't have a problem with that, but it's putting it on is the problem.
This here says overhead is allowed.
Bueno, por ejemplo, aquí están dando el ejemplo de una sudadera, de esas sudaderas que tienen capuchón. O sea, están diciendo que está bien que se ponga una sudadera con capuchón, pero, o sea, que no usen el capuchón en sí, sino que se puede poner la sudadera, pero que no se ponga el capuchón.
And they could be,
yeah, I'm curious on the task force, kind of
why they
what
put that in.
what some of these things they were considering
Because
as
they could be on the phone
allowances.
with somebody,
Right.
you know.
You know, in working with, like Jen was saying, your teachers, your classified, and that school environment, right, with kids right now.
Well, they weren't thinking about school here with overhead.
Bueno, cuando escribieron esto aquí, no estaban pensando acerca de un ambiente en el cual estamos hablando de niños.
We're gonna be dealing with them and educating our staff so that we can better educate our students, right? So how do we define even the clothing that our kids are gonna wear? We
Right.
can't even come to that,
Okay.
agreement.
Porque aquí pues se está hablando también acerca de lo que el personal se puede poner. Y claro, no es fácil llegar como a un consenso en cuanto a todo esto, a un lenguaje.
Yeah, pajama day went on. Okay, but, come on, wear pajamas. No, I'm sorry, these
So
are.
they should just revisit it.
Bueno, entonces debemos de leer esto nuevamente.
A more of
They have to have their educated hat on. We are teaching school.
yes.
So what educated hat? They have to think like they're in class to learn.
Like they're on an educated site environment.
Yeah.
Dealing with this every single day.
Bueno, lo que queremos es que ellos tengan en mente que están aquí para aprender. Entonces queremos que estén conscientes de ello. Es como decir que queremos que se pongan el sombrero que tiene que ver con el hecho de que están aquí para aprender, ¿verdad?
They could be brewing up a drug deal. They could be brewing up, just even listening to music, and there's an emergency and they can't hear.
Por,
In our campuses, phones. So we're not the high school.
aquí está un ejemplo, digamos,
Phones.
¿qué tal si, bueno, aquí se supone que no deben de tener
I'm sorry,
teléfonos.
this is, you either have no phones or
Y,
you have phones.
o sea, se pone o sí se aceptan teléfonos o no se aceptan teléfonos. Los audífonos pues tienen que ver con los teléfonos, ¿verdad? Y la cosa es de que si tienen puestos los audífonos y hay una emergencia, ellos no van a escuchar.
I was in the
En-
classroom too many years.
Bueno, yo estuve en una clase por demasiados años.
From a stereotype perspective, right?
I look at it as an educator.
Right.
Okay, so I'm looking at, I want that person learning. I want that person to hear me.
And they're engaged.
And yes, and then on campus, okay, I want to be able to see their faces. I want to, I'm sorry, but that's how they get fights started.
They're wearing a hoodie.
Mire, yo, por ejemplo, pienso que estamos en un plantel educativo y yo lo que quiero es poder tener aquí a personas que están dispuestas a aprender, y que puedan escucharme cuando les hablo y poderle ver su cara cuando están afuera.
Campuses are gonna be much smaller next year. And maybe the principals will decide that that's okay, but they can take it to us, but at this point in time, the hoods need to stay down, in my opinion, as an educator.
Como yo, como educadora, pienso que si alguien va a traer una sudadera que tiene capuchón, necesita no ponerse el capuchón, ¿verdad? Porque estamos aquí para aprender, estamos aquí para poder comunicarnos.
Making sure they're okay. Because we want to make sure that we can see their face and that they're okay. For many times they come onto campus and that's where you're catching their eyes, right? And when they're
Because they're gonna
not
have
wanting to, and then when you're already limiting what amount of
You can see.
space you can see, it really makes it difficult.
Y una de las cosas que nos interesa es asegurarnos de que los estudiantes están bien. Entonces, queremos asegurarnos de que cada niño va a estar seguro aquí en el plantel educativo. Entonces, queremos poder verlos, queremos poder verle los ojos.
Well, it's not here, and this is the issue, because our schools that we have turned to K through 8
Yep.
have no place for children
To
to change.
Well, HDLA has been like that for a couple years.
Right, and
La
so,
mayoría de las escuelas no tienen un lugar donde los niños se pueden cambiar de ropa para participar en la educación física. Entonces podemos poner aquí lenguaje en cuanto a ello.
Why don't we get to dress out? We're in our clothes,
I know.
sweating. Yes.
we have a huge
porque es algo de veras, un asunto de seriedad.
We can't do it unless we negotiate with our PE teachers. We can't just throw them under the bus because that will wipe out the programs at Mays and Rancho.
Una de las cosas que necesitamos hacer es negociar con los maestros de educación física.
We don't have facilities for that.
Ahorita no tenemos, el plantel no tiene un lugar para que ellos puedan cambiarse. Es un problema que pues necesitamos encargarnos de ello
Frankly, don't know what
y francamente no sé qué es lo que vamos a hacer.
take away,
No podemos,
negotiate with our
tenemos que negociar con nuestros grupos de los sindicatos lo que vamos a hacer.
involves our transgender children
Pero también esto involucra a nuestros niños transgénero.
to deal with that issue as well. So
Y tenemos aquí leyes y tenemos, son cosas que no podemos ignorar. Tenemos que también cuidar a los niños que son transgénero.
We're all trying to, follow and be sensitive to including our transgender students, what other districts might be doing.
you know, what can we do to help them?
So we did check in with the high school, since they are the feeder school that we connect to. They will return to campus, and right now the understanding is that they will dress out for PE. And they will also offer their restrooms. They are non-gender restrooms or unisex restrooms. They have those already built.
Una de las cosas que se están haciendo y hablamos con la secundaria es de que como queremos que los niños se cambien la ropa para participar en educación física, entonces para los niños que son transgénero y no quieren cambiarse de ropa con los demás, pueden utilizar los baños que son para todos los géneros, son baños unisex. Esos también se están poniendo a disposición para que los puedan utilizar.
Different issues, right? One is,
Pero son dos asuntos
transgender students, the other
aparte.
is K-8 who have no place to change.
So we did begin the conversation with our principals and with our director of facilities, Eric Bezetta, who is walking the campuses to see what it would take to build or drop in a restroom that is not gender identified.
Una de las cosas que hemos hecho, hemos hablado con los directores de las diferentes escuelas y también el director de los planteles educativos. Y una de las cosas que hemos hablado acerca de lo que es necesario es poner otro baño que no tenga género. Sí, yo no sé ni siquiera si esto sería posible.
Looking at the current infrastructure, basically, are we going to be able to put this type of a unit, this type of a single stall, or create single stalls, or create a locker room with the current infrastructure and the room that we have on each site? So it's going to take a little bit of walking, talking, getting eyes on each one of the sites and seeing what it's going to take to do what the board proposes, and that's pretty much
Para
what I have.
poder lograr esto, pues tenemos que ver cada uno de los planteles educativos, ver qué es lo que se puede hacer, porque si estamos hablando de poner un baño que es portátil, ¿verdad? Una sola unidad, o estamos hablando acerca de poner un lugar donde puedan cambiarse, pues se va a tener que ver individualmente, pero me parece que sí es algo que se puede hacer, pero tenemos que caminar en cada uno de los planteles y hablar acerca de cómo sería. Y tenemos ciertas propuestas. Bueno, tenemos que ver cuántos estudiantes de octavo grado tenemos en cada uno de los planteles.
Seventh and eighth graders are mandated. Yeah, seventh and eighth graders are mandated by time. And then sixth graders are mandated by time, but it's not as much as the seventh and eighth. So it's the TK through 5 that we don't have the mandated.
TK through second grade, I believe, or TKK do not have the mandate. From the primary grades, it's based on grade level, the
Right.
minutes.
Bueno, aquí en cuanto a las leyes que gobiernan lo que tiene que ver con los diferentes grupos, por ejemplo, los niños de kinder al quinto, em,
the amount of time would be the ones that really needed to dress. Because they have time to play a full game.
Right.
You know,
My
and
concern is though, that this law's been in effect for some time and we're not in compliance with the law. And in that turnaround and trying, Erin, to see what kind of support would you need? Would you actually need to have an architect walk with you to get specs and to figure out the design of what can be structurally built out or dropped in, so that we could get this compliance?
I think eventually it would come to that. I think initially, I think I could definitely continue to walk the site and see, like I said, the current infrastructure and see if
sí
we.
queremos hablar acerca de cuánto tiempo tomaría hacer esto, porque si se trata de que estén viendo cada plantel con un arquitecto para que nos diga específicamente qué es lo que se necesita. Am, si podemos poner baños, por ejemplo, que son unisex, pero de solamente un solo baño, me parece que inicialmente para iniciar el proceso tenemos que ir a cada uno de los planteles a ver qué está ahí y todavía tenemos distritos en los cuales estamos caminando con ellos porque ellos saben lo que está abajo en la tierra y nos pueden decir qué es lo que se puede hacer. Me parece que un arquitecto sería quien nos pudiera ayudar a diseñar y poder presentar lo que queremos. Queremos decir, eso es lo que queremos hacer, pero qué necesitamos para poder lograrlo? Y puede que nos tengamos cientos de planes que podemos referir a nuestro departamento de mantenimiento para que entonces gastemos menos, pero me parece que eventualmente vamos a tener que hacer eso para poder hacer cambios a las estructuras. Gracias, Aaron. Claro.
Students and parents at each school may establish reasonable dress and grooming regulations for time when students are engaged in extracurricular or others. I don't know what number that.
Pues yo no sé qué número se trata esto, pero estamos hablando de los estudiantes que están involucrados en actividades que son extracurriculares, o sea, fuera del currículum normal.
Like, okay, if we don't have a facility for you all to dress out in, maybe we do PE at the end of the day, right? Like maybe we figure out a workaround. Is that what they're referring to or is it something else?
Bueno, cuando habla aquí, digamos que no tenemos los planteles ahorita de forma que se puedan cambiar la ropa para poder participar en educación física. Entonces, ¿qué cambio necesitamos hacer? Aquí dice que tal vez, por ejemplo, si tenemos educación física al final del día, tal vez así es como pueden entonces cambiarse, ¿verdad? Al final del día sería tal vez una forma, pero no sé si eso es lo que quieren decir aquí con lo que está escrito.
That's what they need, yeah. Well, that's up for interpretation. That's what's.
I would say PE is a core subject, and this is referring to extracurricular like sports.
Oh, okay.
Or special school activities, which could be field trips or assemblies.
or when they, play the teachers.
Esto lo que está hablando no es de educación física, porque educación física es una de las actividades que son básicas. Esto está hablando acerca de actividades deportivas que se hacen fuera de las horas de la escuela.
Is that something that, not to dictate, but like for them to think about how to work around?
Y bueno, y en cuanto a cómo podemos lograrlo, ahorita cuando ya se venga el septiembre. Si, si vamos de esa página donde está Bárbara,
Like 3 more pages.
de 3 páginas más,
where it says, at the top is self-confidence.
donde dice autoconfianza en la parte de arriba.
And you'll see, where it says violations of dress code should be treated as minor on the continuum of school violations. And then it says that, parent guardians should never be called, during the school day to bring alternative clothing for the student to wear for the remainder of the day unless by student request.
Aquí una de las cosas que dice, por ejemplo, es de que en cuanto al continuo de disciplina, que cuando hay alguna infracción del código de vestimenta, que esto se tiene que tomar como una infracción leve, menor, y nunca los padres o tutores deberían de ser llamados para traer vestimenta para que el estudiante se cambie, para que continúe, o sea, para que se ponga otra ropa, para continuar.
Students and parents or guardians who want to contest a dress code by a decision may have access to a student advocate or ombudsman person, and appeals process. Okay. Everybody knows passive aggressive behavior, right? And this is classic passive aggressive behavior. Okay, you have a young man comes in and he's got, a naked woman on his shirt. You have the first period. He comes in right as the bell rings, sits down. Okay. So I'm not supposed to have him this instruction. It's not violent. So then it's under not because it's violent, but it's under for pornographic. That's one. No.
Bueno, una de las cosas es, por ejemplo, si alguno de los padres quiere, y quiere que se le escuche porque está en contra de la política en cuanto a la vestimenta, pues entonces se llevaría a cabo una audiencia, y podría tener a su disposición la ayuda de una persona que abogue por ellos, por él. Se puede llevar a cabo un proceso de apelación. Y tenemos aquí el ejemplo de un joven que se sienta, trae puesta una camiseta con una mujer desnuda y no podemos parar, no podemos llamar a los padres, no podemos decirle que se salga de la clase. Y entonces, ¿qué hacemos? Lo mandamos a la oficina y que tenga esta mujer desnuda en la camiseta y que todo lo mire. Ujú.
Does not work for me. They have.
Sí, esto no funciona para mí. Esto se tiene que cambiar, lo siento mucho, esto no.
Okay, never should be in a policy. The word never should be in a policy.
Esto de decir que nunca, nunca se le debe llamar a los padres, esto nunca debería estar en una de las políticas.
Being defamed as a woman, having to look at this, the example I gave.
Si digamos, llega el jovencito, tiene puesta una camiseta de una mujer desnuda, y yo me siento que es una ofensa para mí como mujer tener que estar viendo esto, pero digamos, para mí, si esto pasara, yo diría,
Please go
eh,
to the restroom.
por favor, ve al baño y entonces volteate la camisa.
I have not a clue. I do not know why, but I am
Yo no sé
sorry.
por qué razón dijeron aquí que no podemos llamar a los padres, la verdad que no sé por qué. Nuevamente, esta idea de que muchas veces los niños en esta edad se ponen muchas de las cosas que te ponen los padres ni siquiera saben que lo traen puesto porque a veces, por ejemplo, dice, es que mi mamá no me dejaría ponerme esto, pero mi amiga me dejó ponerme su ropa.
Middle school children.
Y estamos hablando de niños que están en la escuela media.
And
Así es que
they do not
realmente no tienen la madurez mental para estar tomando este tipo de decisiones.
Especially when
Y
our
esta página,
schools are becoming K-8 that
mm,
role model of our
porque pues se supone que si queremos que nuestros niños de segundo año miren a los niños mayores poniéndose ropa así, porque queremos que ellos modelen eh, un comportamiento apropiado. Así que se lo vamos a hacer notar aquí al comité que se está encargando de este asunto.
to incorporate the educator in the room, the teacher, and even, a principal, because you're gonna have these folks, if we're truly changing that mindset of having, our principal, our psychologist, you having these people that have different processes or, are gonna come together to help our kids, right, in this learning environment. But those are the people that I want for their input, because they're the ones that are going to be dealing
Right.
with
Yeah,
this
I
on a
would- yeah.
regular basis.
I agree.
And I would just like to understand the rationale.
Una de las cosas que yo quisiera, porque estamos aquí en un plantel educativo, quisiera que los que se encargaran de esto, por ejemplo, el psicólogo de la escuela o el director, ellos son quienes van a estar lidiando con estas cosas. Queremos realmente que sean ellos quienes nos den más información en cuanto a cómo lo ven ellos.
And come to something in the middle. Very, very good points. So I know that the task force has met and the subgroup has met. And the purpose behind these changes is to allow for students of any gender
Cambios serían para permitir
identify in whatever manner he, she, they seem fit. So we did have that discussion, or that discussion was had. And
parte de los cambios tienen que ver con los cambios en cuanto a género y queremos que se puedan identificar como él, ella, ellos, como a ellos les parezca.
there was also language, if I recall correctly, that was looked at from Alameda Unified School District. So there is guidance out there. There are examples, but definitely.
Tenemos ciertos ejemplos de otros distritos escolares, de cómo el lenguaje que ellos han utilizado. Por ejemplo, tenemos aquí información acerca del Distrito Unificado de Alameda.
We definitely want to engage in conversations with them and see what their take is on it. And I think there is a middle ground. I think there definitely is a way to allow for students to identify themselves, in a positive, body positive way, but also meet the needs that our educational world requires.
Pienso yo que sí hay un punto intermedio en el cual podemos llegar a lograr que los estudiantes, para que ellos se identifiquen de una forma positiva, pero al mismo tiempo poder lograr tener lo que se necesita en un plantel educativo para poder educar.
All of those distractions away.
Queremos quitar todas esas distracciones.
Is to teach and
Estamos aquí
other distractions
para
away.
enseñar y cuando entran otras distracciones es bien difícil que los estudiantes aprendan.
They have enough going on.
Ya de por sí ya tienen suficiente con lo que están lidiando,
Everything else, they don't need
aparte de
to
estar lidiando con todo lo demás.
young woman and well, they're young. Some of them, like I said, are very beautiful girls.
Bueno, hay unas niñas que son, pero de veras hermosas.
Thinking the identity. There's a reason why they wrote some of this language, but maybe it went a little
Too far.
maybe we need to kind of figure.
Pienso yo que hay una buena razón por la cual ellos escribieron esto, pero siento que tal vez se fueron a un extremo.
So we're giving our input and input is the receiver.
Así es que entonces lo que vamos a pedir es como la retroalimentación de parte de los directores, de los psicólogos.
Do we have any schools that we're still using uniforms with?
Still it was.
When they want to allow, right,
And you
it's
can
open?
complete a waiver if you didn't want to.
Okay.
But it
It's
is
still-
uniform, huh?
It's still uniform?
My understanding.
Según, bueno, todavía hay algunos en las escuelas que usan uniformes, sí, todavía hay algunas, pero permiten que los niños, bajo ciertas circunstancias, no tengan que ponerse el uniforme. Eso es lo que le llaman en inglés waiver.
I'm not a big fan of the uniform. The only reason that I would like uniforms is that for our poor children, then there's some of
The stigma's there, because if you're the only one wearing the uniform and everybody else,
opts out, yeah.
then now
There
we
was no
know.
point.
But I've never, yeah.
Bueno, si digamos se les permite a la mayoría no tener que usarlo, pues entonces si tú eres el único usando el uniforme, obviamente, pues muchos de ellos son los estudiantes pobres.
Talks about, schools adopting their own dress code.
En el último párrafo habla de cómo cada escuela puede adoptar su propio código de vestimenta.
So, that has to be made sure that they understand that schools don't do that. So last paragraph,
Board policy 5132,
yeah,
second page.
Donde dice política 5132. O sea, queremos que les quede claro que las diferentes escuelas no hacen esto por su cuenta.
After the administrative regulation, the board policy.
the top says that, the discretion of school staff.
I'm missing that page.
A mí me falta esa página, porque aquí tengo cuando habla de que cada escuela es la que va a hacer esto. Bueno, está en esta página, ¿no?
At the very top, it says discretion of school staff.
What policy are you on?
¿A cuál política está viendo usted?
It's board policy 5132.
Aquí la que dice 5132.
Oh, you're under.
AR5132.
Are different than board policy.
So VP's after.
Yeah.
VP would be.
BP viene después. Bien.
That's where we're at.
That's what we're reading. Okay, so the second page is that?
Yeah.
Entonces esa está en la segunda página, sí.
About, that the school site can, if a school adopts such a dress code, the school shall additionally provide school personnel and families with training, blah, blah, blah. No school can adopt their own.
O sea, como habla de que cada escuela puede adoptar su propio código de vestimenta, como nosotros estamos diciendo aquí, no, eso no es así. No.
Okay, I think the reason it's there, and I may be wrong, is because they're assuming we agree that, that they can wear the things that we said that they could wear that were previously designed as. So they're saying within the board's policy, if they want to go a little bit more stringent for some reason.
Well, they're talking about, potential gang membership, and it says young men.
Involvement.
Yeah, so, okay, at this school, the boys are wearing purple. And then at the next school, they're gonna wear orange.
Right.
You can't fight this. So I don't even really wanna see it.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Bueno,
but
aquí donde habla acerca de que cada escuela puede hacer su propia política de vestimenta. Por ejemplo, muchos, me parece que la intención aquí es de ayudar a que las escuelas puedan hacer algo cuando empiezan a ver, por ejemplo, que algunos de los estudiantes quieren tener una afiliación con las pandillas. Entonces, pero es algo que realmente no podemos luchar en contra de eso porque en algunas de las escuelas pues están poniendo morado, en otra anaranjado y no hay nada que nosotros podamos hacer acerca de eso. Me parece que ya terminamos con eso. Ya son las 7:30. Sí, me parece que alguien estaba escuchando, me parece que ya se durmieron.
Is gonna take us through this, and this is, board policy, questioning and apprehension by law enforcement.
Carla nos va a hablar de lo siguiente que tiene que ver con las políticas que tienen que ver con el cumplimiento de la ley.
very broad overarching, which is kind of like what the ARs are really what each individual school is going to actually do. So to implement
Administration never requires
Yeah.
as a board, but we're going to discuss it.
No, you discussed everything.
They do it with these, they're right.
Bueno, aquí habla de diferentes cosas.
So maybe let's talk about it.
Hablemos acerca.
Okay, so the questioning apprehension of law
Is everybody on
enforcement.
this
We
one?
have the AR, the BP.
Board policy 5145.
So Lisa was asking the difference between an AR and a BP and
Administrative regs versus board policy.
and why we're only talking about BP and not the ARs.
If they're related.
They are related.
No, I know, so why are we only?
Bueno,
talking-
por aquí en el papeleo cuando tiene las letras AR quiere decir que es, son derechos administrativos, AR, y BP quiere decir que son políticas de la junta directiva. Una cosa está relacionada con la otra. Por ejemplo, las políticas están basadas en los derechos administrativos. O se pudiera explicar de esa forma. Entonces es más fácil que cambie una política de la junta directiva a que se cambie el derecho administrativo.
Even if a parent requests that district or school staff call law enforcement. So I'm thinking the rationale on this one, which I am agreeing with, is that the whole school to prison pipeline, right, is that people in the past were quick to call law enforcement for things that, didn't require law enforcement, it was discipline. So this is putting that language in there, and then the piece about, even if parent or guardian requests that the
Parece
district.
que, por ejemplo, aquí está hablando, es que anteriormente cuando algún estudiante se metía en problemas, entonces muchas veces llamaban a la policía, pero lo que empezó a pasar es de que muchos de nuestros jóvenes terminaron yendo a prisión, entonces no queremos contribuir a eso porque realmente tenía que ver con asuntos de disciplina. Entonces se trata pienso que
Physically grabbed and, his head hit on the desk by another child.
But this is talking about you're calling on your own child.
Yeah, they're saying, it says even if a parent requests that the district.
Or maybe you're right, maybe it could be both.
It could be
It could
any
be both.
parent.
It could be.
sí, pero aquí está hablando, digamos que es el ejemplo que estaba dando usted acerca de que un estudiante patea al otro y lo patea en la cabeza. Pero aquí no se trata de eso, sino que está hablando acerca de que los padres piden que se llame a la policía.
Law enforcement assistance, we have a crisis team we're developing, which is, that's what we're gonna go through
But who
first.
takes the child to
The crisis team, they have authorization, the people that have the training of 5150, in mental health professions, you can put someone on a hold, you would call law enforcement for support, but that's a whole nother process.
So does our social workers
They
take it?
would, if they might not be 5150 certified, but maybe our county mental health folks. 'Cause I think Kip said last time that they were forming a crisis team and partnering.
Por ejemplo, cuando algo sucede, que vamos a tener un equipo de crisis, estamos hablando acerca del procedimiento 5150. Este procedimiento 5150 trata de cuando hay una situación, una crisis que involucra una situación de enfermedad mental, entonces estas personas han recibido el entrenamiento apropiado. Esto tendría que ver con el sociólogo de la escuela. No, muchas veces no tiene que ver con las personas que tendrían este tipo de autorización serían pues mediante el condado, o sea, viene siendo el departamento de salud mental del condado.
So when Erica brought up the 5150, and so, then we talked about it, our people need to be trained to say,
Right,
when you get home, if you still feel this way, call the police.
Yeah. that's part of that training piece, right?
Yeah, but I don't know if that gets said because of what you said, that how they can, the children of color, lots of times, get a rap sheet because of this. And that's what we're trying to prevent.
Right,
But the parents don't know that.
right. So that's that training piece.
What's the
Workshops.
school district's obligation, you know, because that scenario happened to me and my son at Rancho. And the principal at the time did not want to call law enforcement, nor did she want to get involved.
Mhm.
So that kind of left it on me to then, I'm like, so then what do I do? You know, this happened while he was in the classroom and he's got a big old,
No.
lump on his head. So,
What do we do?
what do I do? As a parent, I didn't know what to do. And the
Por
principal.
ejemplo, con este ejemplo que se dio acerca del niño que lo patean en la cabeza, digamos en mi caso, eso pasó con mi hijo, la maestra de rancho no quiso hacer nada, entonces, ¿qué hago? ¿Qué hago yo como madre en una situación así? Porque mi hijo pues tiene, ¿verdad? Un chichón en la cabeza. Ahora como directores, ¿qué podemos hacer? Porque no queremos crear la situación en la cual empiezan a tener antecedentes penales los jóvenes y contribuir a que desde muy temprana edad empiecen pues, estar en el sistema, ¿verdad? Judicial, de la juvenil.
There's an accountability piece to restorative practices, and I think maybe that's the piece that's missing here. That we
Me parece que a mí la
really
pieza
flesh
que
out
falta aquí
everybody.
es que
It doesn't mean,
se
oh,
tome
we're gonna
responsabilidad, o
train
sea,
everybody and
o sea,
no.
que hayan consecuencias para los estudiantes que hacen ese tipo de cosas, porque si te vas a involucrar en una conducta delictiva, pues
Coming back to, it makes sense that there's more discussion that needs to be had.
Yeah.
There's more training that needs to be had. And
And
more
this is
tools.
coming out in our discussion right now.
Right, if we're not even clear, then.
porque si para nosotros no está claro, porque necesitamos hablar más y necesitamos más entrenamiento, si para nosotros no está claro, podemos imaginar cómo sería para alguna de nuestras
We are holding this
mascotas.
child accountable. You have a right to talk to the police. Maybe some people don't know.
Yeah.
Right, and having that language. But this is that change in culture. This is not easy. And I think just one more thing on the 5150, I think the reason police are involved, and again, let's double check, is because they put people in protective custody, right? And it's not the same protective custody like you're arrested.
Right.
It's a different kind of like when
For
with
the safety
CPS,
of themselves and
for the
others.
safety of yourselves and others. So it's a different category, but they have let's double check, but I think they only have the authority with a clinician or social worker's recommendation to, but let's double check.
Well, Erica
Una de
was
las
saying,
cosas cuando se mencionó a la policía, cuando se estaba hablando acerca del 51-50, parece ser que la policía solamente tiene autoridad de detener a una persona y no estamos hablando de detenerla así como arresto, como detenerla de esa forma, sino que estamos hablando acerca de una detención que es por su seguridad y solamente la policía tiene autoridad en ese momento debido a que es una
see, when we say
acción de parte de un profesional de salud.
we can't use words like that because there's always gonna be something. And, we don't know if it was something metabolic with the child, we don't know, we're not doctors. But if we need the help, we need the help. We need to do whatever we can to help the child.
Bueno, si una situación se presenta, nosotros muchas veces no sabemos la razón por la que las cosas pasan, puede ser una cosa metabólica, pero la cosa es de que si necesitamos ayuda.
What can I say?
Ay, ¿qué puedo decir? Aquí hay galletas. Bueno,
We are now going to have a public hearing
se va a llevar a
on
cabo una audiencia pública
our LCAP. I'm going to open the public hearing up.
y entonces vamos a pedir, o sea, vamos a abrir la audiencia pública 7:36, 7:40.
Oh, hey there.
everyone, how are you?
Hola a todos, ¿cómo están?
Were you listening to everything we said?
Estaba
I was.
escuchando
Can you
todo lo
hear
que
me?
estábamos
I can't
diciendo.
hear
Sí, sí estaba. ¿Me pueden escuchar a mí?
Thumbs
Hola,
up, you can hear me?
¿sí me pueden escuchar?
Can someone give me a thumbs up if you can hear me?
Si me pueden escuchar, entonces avísenme alzando su pulgar.
Let's see here. Let's see here.
Yeah, you have to show up.
Hey, can you hear
Ah,
me, folks?
que llegó. Sí me pueden escuchar, ¿verdad? No, no lo podemos
No,
escuchar.
you can hear me, but hey, let me tell you something. I am really, really excited about the LCAP. It is not going to get you out of your seats the way the last item did, but it is very exciting. So, as you know, the district goes through a year-long process to develop an LCAP. It really starts almost after you adopt it. It basically gets restarted. So once you adopt an LCAP, 6 weeks later, you're already starting to assess and evaluate the LCAP that you have.
Bueno, en cuanto a este
2021
de
to
LCAP,
2024
se lleva a
LCAP
cabo
is a big labor of
anualmente
love for a lot of
y
people in this district,
6
a lot of
meses
parents,
después de
a
que se
lot of
implementa,
educators,
se pone en
many on the
práctica,
board. And
empezamos a
you're gonna
hacer
hear from
evaluaciones y demás.
And so basically we
Esta es
see
una
what
labor de
requires
amor porque es
this
una
meeting gives the
planificación
school
que
board the opportunity to
le
do
da a
how
la
to develop
junta
district
directiva
core
la oportunidad de ver cómo
which
podemos
are
desarrollar
first
las
and most
metas.
importantly is the academic
Primeramente,
achievement of all of our
tiene que
district
ver con el
and
desarrollo
second is the
académico y el
social
que
and
alcanzan
emotional
sus metas,
well-being of
metas y
the
también que tiene que
district.
ver con
The
el
third, and it's the most
bienestar
important one, is
social y
the
emocional de los
focus
niños.
on
Tercero es
equity
un
in
enfoque
education
en la
for this
equidad
district, which has been
para este
a
distrito,
hallmark of the work that the district has done for the last
que ha
3 years.
sido
And then the
parte
last
del
is
trabajo que ha hecho el
really
distrito en los
interesting.
últimos 3 años.
The plan
Y
is interesting
el
because
plan es
it
interesante
sort of
porque
takes shape over the course of a lot of different meetings that take place.
toma
As the board is
forma
aware, the
cuando se
district
llevan a
sent
cabo
out
muchas
numerous
reuniones
surveys over
y
the past 6
muchas
years to
encuestas
ask
en el
parents,
transcurso del año en los
classified
cuales
staff, and
le
teachers,
preguntamos a los
and
padres y
administrators
al personal
what
clasificado
they
y
thought
administrativo
about the district's
qué
needs
piensan
going into next year.
acerca del
And so
distrito
what's
haciendo y
reflected in
teniendo
this
en mente el
LCAP
siguiente
is a
año.
true
Y lo de LCAP
combination,
es
a
una
true
combinación
nexus
verdadera,
of
una
all of those
mezcla
perspectives. And I
de
really
todas
want to highlight that to the
perspectivas
board.
y quiero
This is a board that has
recalcar eso
leadership on having
porque
all
este es
voices heard.
una
So
de las
you're going to see and
cosas
hear
que ha querido que todas las
evidence
voces se
that
escuchen.
the voices of your classified staff are in here,
Las voces
of
de
your
su
parents are in
personal
here,
clasificado está
voices
aquí,
of the
de los
board,
padres,
voices of teachers
de la
in the
junta
district, and certainly
directiva,
voices
de
of
los
administrators and trainers
maestros, de
and
los
faculty members as
administradores en
well.
el distrito
So I want
también.
to take you through
Así que
on
quiero
the LCAP itself
ayudarles
and
en
the
el
development
LCAP
of the LCAP
en
itself,
sí, el
just to highlight
desarrollo.
each of
Nada
those
más quiero hacerle
four
notar unos
core
puntos
areas.
principales, unas
To
áreas.
start with, I am
Para
going to
empezar, voy a,
here.
voy a ver aquí,
Give me just a second.
denme un momento,
There we go.
aquí estamos.
And board. Okay. Perfect. So what I
Perfecto.
wanna highlight,
Entonces, lo que quiero
about
recalcar
goal one, which again
relativo
is
a la meta
academic
1, que tiene que
achievement
ver con
based meetings, is that the
el
thing
poder
this
que
district
logre
is going
sus
to do
metas académicas,
into next year is gonna continue with the STAR
entrando al
assessments that
siguiente
move
año,
forward.
vamos
So
a seguir
please
con las
accept
evaluaciones
the
STAR
feedback and the results of the student
y la
engagement survey.
retroalimentación y el
The district is gonna
resultado de lo que
continue
ya
with the state's
tenemos.
required
El
tests as well
distrito
as
tiene que tomar en
LSAT,
cuenta lo que el
the
Estado
learner proficiency exams that we're required
exige,
to give. The district
la
will continue to use the California Science
capacidad que
Test
tienen los niños de
CAT
poder aprender un
exam.
segundo idioma,
And of note,
las pruebas que
the
se les
most
hacen
important and
ciencias
critical
y lo más importante y más crítico se
components
incluye
of the district's
como
plan
proponentes
instruction
del
is
plan del
the
distrito de la
purchase of
estructura,
necessary
que se
software and
compren
materials and
programas
curriculum for this district. As you know,
informáticos
the district
para el
has
distrito,
purchased
como ustedes
National
saben, el
Geographic
distrito ha
social studies
comprado,
curriculum recently. The district
compró un
has
currículum de
acquired
estudios
textbooks
sociales
and
avanzado de
purchased
Costa Rica,
consumable textbooks for science. We have a new
de
science.com now.
ciencias,
So the
de la
district that is
doctora.
set in a really
Ese es
good
un
position
distrito que está en muy buena posición al mismo tiempo. Creemos que el distrito debería de devotar eh, s- suficientes fondos a inglés, matemáticas, ciencias, historia, además de seguir entrenando a lo que estamos hablando de prevención, que vienen siendo los puntos principales de la estrategia del distrito, que estamos enfocándonos en los estudiantes que más lo necesitan. En cuanto al programa del asistente del director que se inició, queremos ayudarles a los padres que han mencionado sus inquietudes de hace algunos años. Adicionalmente, en cuanto al programa, continuando las intervenciones de alfabetización temprana, y tenemos una nueva posición del coordinador de los servicios de idioma de inglés. Así que habiendo dicho eso, quiero darle la oportunidad a la junta directiva de hacerme preguntas acerca de los resultados específicamente enfocados en lo académico o en cuanto a cómo este plan se encarga de este punteo académico. Así es que voy a estar aquí por algunos minutos en caso de que haya alguna pregunta.
I'm sorry, Diego, I don't have any, we just got the LCAP this evening. I don't have any questions for you, like right off the bat, because I haven't had a chance to review it in depth. I think my only surprise, I think it was the general information, the demographics of our school community. How many students we have, that are English learners, economically disadvantaged, Latinos.
Sabe que en cuanto a preguntas, Diego, pues ahorita acabamos de recibir el plan LCAP y realmente no he tenido oportunidad de familiarizarme más con él. Lo único que sí le quiero decir que fue una sorpresa para ver la cantidad de estudiantes que tenemos que están aprendiendo el idioma inglés como segunda lengua. Y también, por ejemplo, tenemos ahorita comida que está disponible gratuitamente para los estudiantes, ya sea gratuito o reducido, pero necesitamos seguir teniendo los fondos para seguir proveyendo esto, ¿verdad? Y gracias por preguntar esto. Es muy importante para ella y para su equipo poder identificar, porque ellos están trabajando en el departamento fiscal y empezando en agosto y yendo hasta octubre. Lo que pasa es que cada año, y estas familias han estado aplicando para el programa por años, y pues hay muchas familias que apenas empiezan en la escuela y queremos que ellos se apunten a estos programas, porque si no tienen niños que ya han estado, entonces es por primera vez que lo están haciendo. Mm, Mi proyección sería de que el distrito puede lograr más de un 70% y eso puede ayudar a tener mejores resultados en el distrito. Lo bueno que tenemos una persona como Lisa, que es la que está manejando eso, que es una persona muy enfocada, que presta atención a los detalles y también tenemos la evaluación STAR.
Focus specifically on CalPads and on data reporting. So the three of them are going to basically work together to make sure that all the
Entonces, Lisa, los que se encargan de la evaluación STAR y Javier Medina, que es un nuevo empleado que está ayudándonos también con la recopilación de datos, que es una parte muy importante. A finales de octubre se nos va a decir cómo se va a llevar a cabo, pero definitivamente ya está en proceso.
many times we don't, defining what is homeless, first of all, is important. And knowing what that looks like, right, at each school and having somebody readily there to identify.
Una de las cosas es de que hay algunos estudiantes que no tienen vivienda y no hemos podido identificarlos. Y claro, también cómo se identifica qué es no tener vivienda, cómo sería, cómo se ve. O puede ser que vivan en diferentes lugares, en múltiples lugares, o un lugar que, o sea, tal vez sean categorizados como una persona sin vivienda, pero em, es bueno poder identificar quiénes son estos niños porque sus necesidades se ven impactadas, porque pues por esas situaciones eso les afecta. Entonces me parece que también es una cosa que no se informa de ello a cabalidad.
Kind of taken by the demographics.
En
And
cuanto a lo
that it serves
demográfico,
21
por
children
ejemplo,
and
dice,
the 56 unhoused youth. I'm curious who,
tenemos, digamos, 21 dice estudiantes que viven
who's
con
designated.
tutores y 56 que no tienen vivienda.
I just want to make sure who is that and
¿Quiénes son?
they know that we're available
Ellos
for them when
saben
they're
que
saying
nosotros estamos
especially if they're
disponibles para ellos,
we talk about
especialmente si vemos a los
so I'm
niños
curious who
que
in our district
están
is
viviendo
assigned
con
to
tutores. Entonces, ¿quién en nuestro distrito está
we have another
asignado
question
para
on
encargarse de esta
this report
población?
or the reflections piece.
Y claro, estas son las
Thank you
reflexiones.
for that,
Claro,
Carla.
sí.
So,
Gracias por
your
eso,
Director of
Carla.
Youth Services has the ultimate responsibility to ensure that our homeless and foster youth families receive the support that they need. Within his department, he has two parent liaison positions that we're going in through next year will be the direct line of communication to those families. I do want to call out San Benito County Office of Ed. They have a staff member that works at the county office who coordinates with us on those programs.
Mire, para contestar su pregunta, tenemos a la persona que se encarga de que es director de servicios estudiantiles. También bajo esta persona trabajan dos personas que son las personas que hacen acercamiento comunitario, que tienen más contacto con los padres y ellos son quienes le pueden dar más información. Tenemos aquí a San Benito County Ed. Bueno, digamos que a veces tienen ellos que hacer la pregunta porque, digamos, la familia no tiene los medios ahorita para pagar una vivienda, pero tal vez no dice nada. Parte de las personas que aparecen en ese número son entre esos 56, hacer una pregunta directa.
They are counting towards that designation of meeting the McKinney-Vento Act requirements of being in the homeless student population.
En cuanto digamos que es una familia que está viviendo con otra familia, pues ellos reúnen los requisitos para que se les considere familia sin vivienda, pues o que están viviendo en la vivienda de otra familia.
The 80% of English learner students have not met standards in ELA. 80% of English learner students have not met standards in math. 90% of students with special needs have not met standards in ELA.
Tenemos aquí porcentajes, 80% de los aprendices del idioma inglés no han podido alcanzar las metas que se les ha trazado. Por ejemplo, en matemáticas, un 80% y un 90% de los estudiantes con necesidades especiales no han podido alcanzar sus metas. Digamos, aquí cuenta un lado de la historia. Hay un porcentaje de niños. Digamos que se nos dice 47% es la población hispana, pero ¿cuántos de estos hispanos están aprendiendo inglés? Entonces, digamos, en nuestro distrito son 5,000. Y entonces, este grupo que apenas está iniciando, ¿cómo les va a ellos? porque los porcentajes, cómo esto tiene que ver con el estándar.
Creates that, it's kind of like a loud, a really loud bell. Like,
Right.
this is a priority. We have to change this. You know, I would have, honestly, Carla, I would have really loved for us to take test scores last year and again this year, but as you know, the
Right.
state has not. So what you're looking at is data from 2.5 years ago, unfortunately.
Yes.
But
Bueno, el año pasado no se pudo llevar a cabo, no se pudieron llevar a cabo estas investigaciones en cuanto a la población de las escuelas. Los datos con los que estamos trabajando tienen 2 años y medio de que se recopilan, porque como usted sabrá, pues no se pudieron llevar a cabo ni este año ni el año pasado.
yeah, you know what really came to the forefront for me over the last
Sabe
year
que
with
es
the
algo
pandemic
que en
is
el último
I
año, durante
I
la
couldn't be
pandemia,
more academic only focused, always really
porque yo me estuve
really hard on
enfocando mucho en lo
understanding more academic.
académico, lo que es
But one thing
lectura,
I've learned over the last
matemáticas,
year
y una cosa que he
is when
aprendido en este último año, en los
children's
últimos
emotional
meses,
needs
es
are not
que
being met,
si
they
sus necesidades
and it's so
emocionales
sad
de los
because
niños
a
no
pandemic
se
we used to
están
learn that, but as a school
satisfaciendo,
administrator
pues ellos no
you
pueden aprender,
get so focused on academics. You're just
porque
so
nos
narrowly
enfocamos
focused on
tanto en lo
academics. But what has
académico.
surprised me
Así lo que a
now
mí me
is all the
sorprendió
support kept coming
es
back from
cómo
families
al darles estos
and
apoyos a
employees
las
and
familias, cómo
stakeholders saying we
esto
want our kids
nos
to have
ayuda,
fun,
queremos,
we want
porque
our kids
decimos, queremos
getting
que nuestros
outside, we want
niños
our kids
que
doing
jueguen afuera,
hands-on
queremos
learning. One of the
que nuestros
highest
niños aprendan haciendo las
responses in our
cosas.
survey was,
Una de
I
las
asked, I
respuestas
want my child to do hands-on
mayores,
learning activities. 96% of families said yes to that question.
cuando se les
It
preguntó a
shows
las
you, like,
familias que
that
si
was a bit
quisieran que sus
surprising
hijos aprendieran
that I could
haciendo
say it
actividades
was
con
yes.
sus manos,
And
96% de
I
estas
wanna,
familias dijeron que sí.
sincerely
Eso fue algo
say
que
as
me
well,
llamó mucho la
remember,
atención, es algo que yo quería
LCAP is your
compartir con
LCAP.
el,
So we're here
la
to
mesa
continue
directiva, la junta.
next week, but ultimately this board is authorized at any time next fall, next winter, and certainly next year at this time to go in and add things and change things and say, we want to tweak this here because this is your plan. The board approves
Este
this.
es el plan de ustedes, así que si viene, digamos, el otoño próximo, el invierno, estamos el próximo año en esta temporada del año, si ustedes quieren hacer algún cambio, yo quiero decirles que ustedes pueden hacer cualquier cambio que les parezca porque este estudio se hizo para su beneficio. Así que aquí estamos.
So the alignment with the LCAP and the budget, how well aligned are the two?
They have to be 100% aligned. So the document that you have reflects. And so what's interesting is
¿Qué tan alineado está el programa, el CAP, con el presupuesto? Realmente tienen que estar alineados al 100% y ustedes podrán ver ahí cómo fue que se alineó. Aquí les da una idea general de esto. Lo que ustedes tienen ahí, cada una de las actividades de LCAP se refleja en el plan. No hay nada que esté ahí, que no se vea reflejado en el distrito. Así en cuanto a eso, pueden ustedes implementar este plan si ustedes deciden hacerlo.
I'm looking at page 16, where we have allocated.
Estamos viendo la página 16.
Paraprofessionals and instructional assistant staff at certain school sites.
Mhm.
And one of the things that I think we're going to have to do with our social workers, our counselors,
Una de las cosas que noto yo aquí que para poder hacer los cambios necesitamos utilizar los servicios de los paraprofesionales para que le ayuden como asistentes de maestros.
Because when the money starts to get tight, and we're looking at, we have to make decisions about, do we keep these positions? Or do we cut so we can give a raise or whatever the case may be, that we have data.
Well, one of the things
La
that
cosa
I
es de que, por ejemplo, lo que queremos es que cuando haya contacto con los niños, que haya forma de poder y ver qué fue lo que pasó, o sea, que hayan datos, porque necesitamos esos datos al momento de tomar decisiones. Cuando queremos decidir si ya no vamos a utilizar esos puestos de para profesionales y si se le va a dar un aumento a alguna persona, pues tiene que estar basado en estos datos.
that those things are being resourced, right, with those things in mind. And I know it doesn't specifically call that out, like you're supposed to earmark, okay, this is coming from this, funding source or from this one. But I think for us, because uh, is a document, that tracks our progress for the next, what, 3 years? 3
Este es un
years.
documento que se supone que delinea nuestro proceso en los próximos 3 años. Queremos ver entonces de dónde provienen los fondos. Queremos incorporar esto en el resultado para poder saber de dónde
Yeah, and thank
proviene
you
el
for
dinero.
bringing that up.
Y
Because
gracias
it
por
is
hacer surgir esto. El distrito ha sido
in the state
notificado
of California that we are
por
expecting
parte del
some,
estado de California que estamos
substantial
esperando
ESSER 3 or elementary school education resource funds, as well as potentially year funds from Governor Newsom in the months ahead. And
Bueno,
that
estamos esperando que se nos den ciertos fondos. Hay ciertos fondos que tienen que ver, bueno, fondos que van a provenir de parte de el gobernador del estado, del gobernador Newsom, y también parte proviene de fondos. Bueno, tenemos instrucción en persona y también tenemos ciertos fondos que se nos dieron para dar ciertas oportunidades específicas, pero ya utilizamos esos fondos. Entonces, cuando estamos hablando de una extensión de la enseñanza, estamos hablando acerca de la escuela de verano. Y seguir pagando los servicios y consejería que forman parte del primer año de esta implementación. Esto
because they are not for ongoing expenses. They are not for salary increases. They are not for hiring a bunch of people. They're for one-time expenses like buying more hands-on learning materials that you could decide sometime in the fall or spring. And
aquí hay una cosa interesante que habla acerca de fondos SRF. No son, esto es para mantener estos cambios. Y yo quiero que quede claro que estos fondos no son para contratar a personas nuevas o dar aumentos, sino que esto es solamente para usarlo una sola vez para asuntos que se designan acá, que tienen que ver con materiales, digamos, pero no es para, como les digo, nuevas posiciones o aumentar salarios.
Lisa.
Do you have anything you want to add?
It's too much information. Let's go through it.
Tienen algo que quieran compartir, es demasiada información.
yeah, and on the board level, what I want to offer as well is remember we're coming back in a week. So, and as you know, myself and your interim superintendent are available for one-on-one consultations to go through any questions that you have. But remember, we're coming back in a week to go ahead and consider approval and
Una de las
adoption.
cosas que quiero recordarles que vamos a regresar una semana, así es que quiero que por favor piensen acerca de cosas preguntas que tienen, inquietudes que tienen. Y yo sé que es mucho que leer, pero durante este tiempo nosotros nos hacemos disponibles para que ustedes nos puedan hacer preguntas individualmente en cuanto acerca de acciones y servicios que tenemos. Y siento que está, o sea, que no hay sorpresas o cambios. Siento que son cosas que sí están muy alineadas. Bueno, lo acabamos de recibir apenas hoy, o sea que no hemos tenido oportunidad de repasar, pero sí lo podemos hablar de ello durante la siguiente reunión
The public's
para ver
seeing it
cómo
now, so the
funciona.
document's online, it's live. Oh yeah, it's live and online. Yep, it's the one button review that's available for any board meeting.
Está disponible para que lo puedan repasar y hasta el documento disponible y está en vivo y ustedes pueden presionar el botón que lleva ahí para poder pasar como miembros de la Junta. Estamos hablando porque
Still being called out, but was that what we had spent, actions and things that we've done? So it's just calling it out what we've done in the past? Why would
Yeah,
it
and
do
yep,
that?
yep, and thank you for mentioning that. So what you're looking at, you know, how I said last.
pero esto
a
habla
little
acerca de
ago,
cosas que se han hecho en el pasado, sí,
the
gracias por
required
mencionar.
forms
Una de las cosas
are
que se
making
exigen.
us actually do 4 different documents tonight, which is number 1 is the LCAP, which is the first 60 or so pages. Then it makes you do the learning continuity and attendance plan and the annual update. And if you recall, a year ago, we did have that expected expense and that resource. But as you know, we haven't included that in this LCAP. So there's no school resource officer funding built into the 21 to 24 LCAP. Unfortunately, they require us to show both of those documents at the same meeting. So there always is a little bit of that confusion as to why we're sort of reporting on what happened last year at the same time that we're trying to adopt what we want to do in the next 3 years.
Entonces aquí estamos hablando, sí, también del año pasado en cuanto a que se nos tiene que poner a disponibilidad ambas cosas, lo que se hizo el año pasado y lo que se está planificando hacer ahora para que pueda estar a su disposición, que puede ser un poquito confuso. Am, o sea, que lo primero, por ejemplo, esto consta de 4 diferentes partes. Primeramente, las 60 primeras hojas tienen que ver con los resultados. Luego estamos hablando de la continuidad en cuanto al aprendizaje. Luego las referencias de los gastos y demás.
I know it's a lot. Okay.
Well, I think we're gonna have to digest this.
Bueno, me parece que vamos a tener que digerir esto. ¿Algún comentario? Sí, está bien. Mm. ¿Hay alguna otra pregunta? ¿O creo que hay algún comentario público? Vamos a cerrar entonces la audiencia pública.
So now we'll go to the public hearing of the 2021-2022 budget. And
Entonces ahora vamos a hablar del presupuesto 2021-2022. Dije su ser Diego.
Yay, I don't want to miss this opportunity to talk a second time.
Sí, yo no quería perder
What
una
you all
oportunidad
should
de
have
dar una
read, you
segunda
can see the
vez.
document there is the
En la
PowerPoint
parte del
presentation.
documento podrán ver
As you
esta
know, this is another one of
acción
those big
PowerPoint.
140-page documents that's very
Es un
burly.
documento de
It is
140
online for
páginas.
review.
Está en línea
I
para que
want
lo
to
puedan
thank
repasar. Quiero darle las
Sarah
gracias a
and
Sara
Lisa and
y a
Eric for
Lisa
their work on this
y el
particular
trabajo que
project.
hicieron este proyecto en
Many of you
particular.
may not know, but Sarah has a bouncing, beautiful baby at home. She's got a 2-month-old at the house, so she was sort of.
Tal vez ustedes
back in
no lo
at the very
saben,
last
pero
time. We
Sara
have
tiene una
been
hija de 2 meses
contracting
en
with our
casa
associates at Ryland.
y lo que hicimos
Incorporated. They've helped us the last couple of times we needed assistance
contratar a
with
nuestros
budget
associados
adoption.
Ryland que nos
And
ayudaron
so
con
what you're looking at
el del
tonight is
presupuesto.
the
Lo que están viendo
culmination
esta
of the
noche
district
es una
budgetary
culminación
process.
del proceso del distrito.
If I can present my screen, I'm going to try right now.
Y puedo presentar aquí en mi pantalla. Déjeme ver.
Hip hooray. Let's see here. There we go. All right, let me see if I can do this here.
Vamos a ver entonces si se los puedo presentar acá.
My screen.
Voy a compartir mi pantalla.
There we go. All right. So, I hope you can see this on the big screen
Espero
there.
que puedan ver esto en la pantalla grande.
And essentially what we're going to talk about today is
Esencialmente lo que vamos a hablar
revenues and
hoy,
expenditures, where our money comes from and what we spend our money on.
el dinero que ingresa y el dinero que sale, también los resumen de los fondos generales y también hacer una proyección de dónde vamos a estar en algunos años. Durante la edición de mayo, del mayo pasado, la posición 98 estimó a 93.7 billones. El senador propone hacer un ajuste de cola de 5.0%. Esencialmente lo que está haciendo es una super cola que es 5.07%. De hecho, no nos dieron cola para nada este año. Entonces no le están dando el año siguiente, le están llamando super.
It was sort of a clever way to take credit for something that really actually kind of pulled some money away from us, but you know, those are the politics of the way.
Ya ve que hay política involucrada, porque ahorita están tomando y ahora dar super cola cuando en realidad lo que hicieron es no darnos los fondos el año pasado. Y los fondos que están dando para nutrición de ellos son bastante implica para los programas en cuanto a la nutrición de los estudiantes, para ver cuáles son los principios que tiene que ver con el presupuesto. Pero quería mencionarle esto a ustedes. No es un impacto tan grande, pero sí impacta.
Very familiar because it's the number we've been using for several years. So the message I want to give the board is we're being conservative with our enrollment projection, even though
Nosotros estamos siendo conservadores con las proyecciones que hay en cuanto a inscripciones. Esta cantidad de 5.305, tal vez están bastante familiarizados con esta cantidad.
When you keep your enrollment projection the same, you protect yourself from having a drop in enrollment, which will really hurt your finances. So this is a bit of a conservative step for us, and I just wanted to call it out so that the board knew why we were doing it. At the same time, we expect lottery.
Una de las razones que no le hicimos un cambio a las cantidades que aparecen aquí es que es algo estratégico, porque no queremos decir que las inscripciones nuevas van a ser tantas cuando en realidad puedan ser menos, y esto es algo que puede impactar económicamente al distrito. Entonces yo quiero que la junta directiva entienda por qué razón hicimos esto como lo hicimos. Ahora, en cuanto a los fondos generales, donde estamos trabajando juntos, y cómo esto agrega a los ingresos en general. El próximo año estamos empezando con 70 millones, 9.720. Y eso básicamente proviene de una combinación de lugares. Está listado aquí. Así es que muestra bajo LCF la forma que eso ayuda de parte del Estado. Bajo federal está medical y otros programas para los cuales las personas pues tienen sus derechos en cuanto a ellos, y en cuanto a los fondos locales tenemos aquí intereses, también ciertas cuotas. Así es que 70 millones que están entrando. Y aquí es un lugar que tenemos. En cuanto al próximo año, pues tenemos aquí 69.790.386 combinados. Aquí es un poquito diferente porque estamos clasificados en cuanto a salarios clasificados, y esto pues 30 millones. Si ustedes ven esto como noticia, Sabe que en años anteriores las cantidades no eran tan grandes. Para el próximo año estamos viendo una cantidad de 20.5 millones y también hay otros gastos de operativos. Si ustedes ya conocen cuáles son, que tienen que ver con los planteles, los servicios, el agua y demás. Son los gastos operativos y todo llega a tener un valor de 69.090. Esto nos lleva a contribuciones a los programas restringidos. Son programas que hemos puesto a un lado. Entonces, tenemos 1 millón que ha sido puesto a un lado para poder llevar con mantenimiento en el distrito, servicios que van más allá en cuanto a social y luego ciertos servicios relacionados a salud mental. 895,000. La razón que esto es por encima es que contratamos a nuevas personas en Calaveras y tuvimos que hacer esta contribución. Bien. Ahora, tenemos aquí entonces el presupuesto, como ustedes van a empezar viendo, son 7.065. Ahora, el presupuesto es un presupuesto de 7 millones. Pero ¿cómo llegamos a esta cantidad? Porque la junta directiva siempre ha estado viéndolo como una reserva. La razón que se puede hacer de esta forma este año es porque tenemos dinero que está entrando, que está ayudando a pagar los programas que van en aumento. En años anteriores no teníamos los servicios de consejería que vamos a tener el próximo año y en años anteriores no había una inversión en el programa como lo va a haber ahora. Y esos son los tipos de servicios que ahora van a llegar a ser provistos en nuestro distrito que no estaban disponibles anteriormente. Así es que, como le digo, si ustedes miran acá abajo, si vamos a ver años múltiples, porque ustedes pues tienen la responsabilidad de adoptar un presupuesto de 10 años. Ustedes lo que van a ver acá, neto hay un aumento. Como ustedes podrán ver que hay 150, hay una disminución en el primer año. Bueno, va aumentando, cada año va aumentando, como ustedes podrán notar aquí, porque digamos el primer año 70,009 y el segundo año 70,941, el tercer año 73. De aquí a un año, cuando el presupuesto mm, va a haber un aumento en inscripciones y claro, eso va a lograr que haya también un aumento en eso. Básicamente de ahí proviene 7.4 millones, es 7.437. También quiero agregar una consideración importante que estuvo incluida aquí. A ver dónde está, déjeme ver aquí en la pantalla.
Going to bring to the board, likely in the weeks ahead, for our teacher union and potentially for our classified and management and confidential employees as well. That pay increase will need to be balanced against your ending fund balance. But when that happens, your ending fund balance is going to come down. So the reason to remain focused on the programs you already have and avoid adding new expenses is because as a board, you are in a position to make your LCAP succeed by funding the things that are already in your LCAP. But you, the 5 board members, right now 4, but hopefully in the weeks ahead, 5 board members and the interim superintendent are responsible for keeping the district's budget solid in the years ahead. And that's where the future, COLA comes in. Right now, they're predicting that our COLA will go up a couple percent each of the next 2 years, but that could change. We've had years where they tell us we're going to get a 3% COLA, and then the January budget comes in and they say, oh, you're getting a 0% COLA. If that happens, this district will have to tighten its belt. So it's, as you know, the budget is always that tension between save all your money and then you don't have programs for students, or develop programs for students and keep a close eye on anything that comes outside of the district's LCAP and the things that you want to do. And then ultimately, as a board, doing it in a way that's transparent and that's connected to the board's vision for the district is, that's what makes your job hard, folks.
Super hard. I do have a question.
Sure.
Okay, maybe I didn't understand, but so that was what you just talked about, is the potential raises for our staff are not included. So that's gonna come out
It is.
after.
It is. And the raises are $1.3 million.
Oh, it's included.
So it's not included.
1.3 mil?
Yeah, so, and the reason we do that, Carla, is because until the board until ratification takes place and the board approves it, you can't include it in your budget. So where we've included it in the budget itself, in the ending fund balance, we have the amount of the increase, which is 1.3 million roughly, included in a little section down under the ending fund balance that specifies other assignment. So we know it's there. We know how much it costs. We know that we have the funding to be able to pay for it. But essentially what this board has put itself in a position to do is to be able to give your employees competitive pay, to be able to increase these counseling positions, to be able to put in place your elementary PE, to be able to keep your custodial services at the level that you are able to do, to be able to renovate athletic fields, buy new curriculum for English, math, science, history, ELD. This is all in the last year and a half, and it's baked into your budget. To be able to offer an early literacy intervention program and have assistant principals at all of your schools, as well as, by the way, folks, open a brand new school, right? Many districts struggle just to pay the bills when they have to open new schools, and you all have managed to do it by baking those costs into the district's plan for staffing. So it's there, Carla. We know the cost. We're prepared to budget for it, but you're basically in a situation where, like, as a superintendent, my advisement to you is remain committed to the things you're already doing and hold off on adding new things to the mix, because you'll find yourself searching for money in your ending fund balance.
Yeah, I think everything you said, definitely we've all said we want to pay our staff, we want these programs. I just wanted to clarify, okay, the money's in there.
Yep. We've budgeted for it and we know how much it costs, but until the board actually votes to approve it, you can't put it in the salary and bennies.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
And I wanted to ask, because I see that you built out also the building fund, capital facilities fund, and county school facilities fund. Can you explain to us what the difference is between the three?
Yeah. I wish Aaron were here so that he could help me and he could be like my Magic Johnson. Yeah, Magic Johnson passing the ball so I could just score the basket. So give me 1 second here. I'm going to try to pull up the document. Maybe and project it here. Do you have a page number, Liz?
Well, you have it, starting with the building fund in the budget on page, after the cafeteria fund starts on page,
It's okay. Yeah.
No, 66.
66. Let me pull it up. Yeah. There we go.
Because these are, I know each one talks about, facilities, but I'm just wondering for the board's, understanding why we have the three different pieces of allocation of funds.
Yep, and I'm actually gonna call Sarah Metal. She just sent me a text message saying, Diego, let me step up to the mic and explain this.
Category.
These are all the items that are listed in this fund, if any.
Yes, you have to go to the microphone so it gets,
That's one category, and we have on page
in your sense.
77, you have the capital facilities fund.
So all of the items that are listed as funds outside of general, which is restricted and unrestricted, that's Form 01 or Fund 1, is where we see most of our funds come from. But like ASB, cafeteria, school outlay, those are different bonds and measures that we have that are deposited differently into our account. So like Fund 40 or Fund 25, those all have to do with construction grants and they're all named different. So while we can potentially use them, for example, for Santana, we can potentially use, capital facilities and county school facilities, technically, they are different funds because we receive them differently.
Like
So-
your developer fee, where would those go?
So those go into capital outlay fees. And then we have like county school facilities or just any time that we have county support money coming in to help with our school projects. So they all essentially the same for the same uses, but they just come in differently at different times. They're expendable in different ways.
And
Because that's what
Sarah,
we were trying to figure out, once we start getting money from the bonds, right, the matching state funds.
Yep.
Where would those be earmarked? Where would they go and be deposited?
and thank you for that, Liz. So there's gonna be 3 different places. So first is Fund 21. And where that's gonna come in is once the district starts to get these reimbursements from the bonds you're referring to. The 21 building fund is essentially where your leases, where your rentals, where your interest proceeds from the sale of bonds comes from, and then the proceeds from the sale or lease of those lands or buildings, and that isn't a huge amount for this district. In Fund 25, what they call the capital facilities funds, that's where the developer fee money goes into effect. You start to get developer fee funds plugged in there, and that's where you essentially deposit the money into that Fund 25. Under Fund 35, what they call the county school facilities fees, what you have in there is your school facilities apportionment. So if you recall, we received some money from the state for Calaveras and for Cerro Vista's HVAC project that we approved. I think it was sometime around this time last year, actually. And if you recall, we had to create that fund, what they call the Fund 35. That's where those reimbursement apportionments come in. And just to make it all even more confusing, Fund 40, so remember, there's 4 funds, 21, 25, 35, and 40. Fund 40 is essentially exists to provide for the accumulation or the gathering of the general fund monies for capital outlay purposes. So where this is going to come from is potentially FEMA funding, federal, state, or local revenues, outlay projects that come with a sale or a lease with an option to purchase, any property that the district would own. So it really targets that potential money has to be spent and authorized by the governing board for real capital outlay purposes.
What are our what is our reserves?
So your reserve is in that PowerPoint is you're starting the year with a $7 million reserve out of a $70 million budget. So again, it's right at that, almost perfectly on the button at 10%.
Okay, because if you go to page 46, explain what I'm looking at here, page 46.
Letter E.
Under letter E, and so I'm not sure what I'm seeing here.
Yep.
And it shows reserves of 5 and 5.5, and then 6. What is that?
Yeah, so what you're looking at, Jan, is you're going into these very detailed budget definitions that actually start to break the reserve down into different components. So if you're on page 45, take a look at where it says fund balance in the left-hand column. And what you'll see there is it indicates $7,065,780.
No, I see
And
that. Yep.
what it starts to do is it starts to break down those dollar amounts. So you have the 1.45 million for restricted. You have what's called 2474 for assigned. Then you have a reserve for economic uncertainty. So it's kind of a complicated way of saying you have $7 million in the bank, but you're basically assigning certain portions of it to different potential expenses. So restricted expenses, unassigned expenses, and then as the board chooses, the board at any time could say, well, I want you to put $500,000 aside for technology, or I want you to put $200,000 aside for new lights at such and such school or such and such location. Or we want you to fix the parking lots around the district. So set $500,000 aside for parking lots. If the board doesn't assign those funds, then your ending fund balance is basically 7.065 million. And then this board, as you're managing your budget on a year-to-year process of first interim, second interim, and then budget adoption and unaudited actuals, you're checking to make sure that you're not overspending what you budgeted for.
I see, because they're taking out the 3%. Right.
Exactly.
For the uncertainty, and they're taking out the, I see that. So this is new. They never used to do this. This is different?
No, it's
You know, it's a
But
it's a
taking out
part
the
of it.
3% before?
Uh-huh.
Oh, I used to, okay, it just seems different for me.
So it's like a savings, like I'm
Yeah.
saving this
Mhm.
for now.
Right,
Because the
You
3%'s
know-
always been a requirement. by the
right,
state,
right,
which
right.
will cover nothing in our case.
Yeah, and
You know, I don't know what 3% would cover.
yeah. Well, but you know, this is the dance, right? So if the board puts all their money into the ending fund balance, what you're gonna have is staff and parents saying, where are the programs for my children?
Right. Oh, absolutely.
So this is part of that dance. And ultimately what my message to this board is, you all have an LCAP that is giving you major social emotional services to kids. Super high quality reading intervention, site assistant principals, renovated fields, staffing for classified staff at levels at the site that meet your expectations, and your employees are about to get a pay increase that makes their pay highly competitive, which means you won't be losing a lot of people in the years to come. That stability it's hard to put a dollar amount on what that stability will give you. But I'm making a very strong statement. Remain committed to your plan. Avoid the urge to start adding more things, because then Erica's hair is going to turn all white in the next 6 months, and Sarah's going to age right there on camera. And we can't have that happen.
No.
Well, can you guys remind us then, please, because we get ambitious.
I think changing culture doesn't have to be that expensive. It's changing the hearts.
Yep.
Changing the hearts.
So you don't anticipate in the projection that because of the buildings, the homes that are being built, we're gonna be okay?
Well, yeah, and thank you for bringing that up, Carla, because what I'm projecting in this enrollment is, you know, in a district with 6,000 kids, I'm projecting the enrollment to increase next year 0, and the year after 50, and the year after that 50 more. Those are very, very conservative projections. So what will happen is if you end up with, let's say you end up with 40 more kids this year, As a result of the way we built schedules, you already have small class sizes. I've shown that to the board at other meetings. Your class sizes, starting at the TK level and going all the way up through 8th grade, are some of the smallest class sizes you've had for years and years.
Yeah.
So you have space for more kids. And guess what? I cross my fingers and hope that you get 80 more, 70 more, 60 more this year, because if you do, your ending fund balance will get really nice. And then the year after, if you add 60 instead of 50, your ending fund balance will have a little bit more padding. And then the year, so that's kind of the way we built it, was to keep it very considering being, I guess, frugal or being very economical with the way that the district enrollment will grow. But frankly, I think it's going to grow a lot more than what's in our projection. I would rather be wrong in having less kids built into my budget than more kids into my budget.
And it's always better to have a conservative side on a budget. And my worry still is on facilities is making sure that we're going to have enough space at our sites.
Yep.
And I don't want to be scrambling last minute, or be scrambling last minute to then find space for kids. I don't want to be housing them in a multi-purpose room till we drop a portable, or, I want us to be really conscious of where we are with our facilities and our needs, and always giving him the flexibility to stay ahead of the game versus combating with, being in compliance with certain, laws and, just the needs that now that we're going to go K-8, we're talking about locker rooms, all of these things that we already know are a concern. And how do we move things along so where that he can say, okay, board, we need to move so that I can get these things into place so that these needs can be met quickly versus let's spend a whole year trying to figure this out. I don't want us spinning our wheels when we know what our facility needs are now and designing what that plan will look like, incorporating that into the budget so that way we know what the planning cycle looks like.
Yeah.
And I think, go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead, Carla.
I think too, it'll be good, because I'm glad you said that we can revisit the LCAP, we can revisit what we need, later another time, because I'm thinking, we don't know what's coming down the road. And so it would be good, like in September, October, to kind of look at things again. And I don't know if, kind of prioritize if it looks like, oh, we need whatever expenses. Where can we get it from?
Yeah.
So,
Well, in regards to the building of the locker rooms for our transgender and those type of things, we can use our building funds, correct? Diego?
Let me wade in there. So let's have that
Discussion.
Yeah, let's have a discussion. So what is at issue here is that the district currently, under the COVID protocols, would not even be able to open your locker rooms because the children are in such close proximity. They are within inches of each other. So that won't match the requirements built into the current guidance on how to reopen schools. So at this point in time, my recommendation is don't consider building anything additional until and unless you get different guidance from the California Department of Public Health. But what I want to bring up to the board again is remember back 3 years ago and 4 years ago when Mays and Rancho were disciplinary fire situation, suspensions every day, drama, major drama taking place. Those PE locker rooms were the epicenter of the bullying, the sexual harassment, and the major issues that we were having dialed back. Remember Carla, you mentioned earlier the phone issues. There were video problems, there was technology problems in those locker rooms. Having said that, as you know, your middle schools are getting a lot smaller. So those concerns will come down because you won't have as many kids in those PE locker rooms using them at the same time. Your K-8s have never had locker rooms. So if you choose to build locker rooms at your K-8 campuses, my professional opinion is that it doesn't align with the purpose of a K-8, which is to allow those K-8s to have a small, nurturing, non-middle school environment pertaining to staying at that school for 9 years. Now, I'm leaving in a week and a half, so my opinion doesn't count for very much. But I just want to say that if you leave the kids at Calaveras and HDLA, which currently, as you know, Carla, they play sports in their regular clothes. At the same time, one potential way to make it so that these kids engage with each other, and this is something that we've spoken at the senior cabinet level, is installing shoe lockers so that the kids can switch from a shoe that's not appropriate to run in to a shoe that is appropriate to run in. And then you're not actually physically taking your clothes off in front of your peers. You're changing your socks and shoes. Instead of wasting 13 minutes per class to get out of your clothes and get in different clothes, it'll take you 2 minutes to put your shoes on and off, lock them up, and get out and run and play with your friends. So that's kind of how I look at it. To answer the question that you asked, Jan, which is, are we able to use facility funds to do things like build locker rooms? Absolutely, absolutely. But I do want to bring up, this board has been super committed for years to Calaveras and Cerro Vista multi-purpose rooms.
Yes, we
Those
are
are
staying on
two
that.
No, but
high priorities.
we're also dealing with this transgender issue.
Which is not a locker room as much
No.
as a unisex restroom.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very much two different things. Okay,
All right, thank you.
all right. I think we will now close this, unless there's any more questions.
No.
Okay, we're gonna close this, public hearing on the budget. Thank you very much, Sarah and Diego. And now we're going to have an oral report and action to approve the interim, we don't have
And
that.
county
County
treasurers.
treasurers, yeah, what's next?
Item 13A.
13A, yes. We don't, do we have that in here?
Is Sarah? Ready to go.
Yeah.
Ready to go.
So every quarter, we receive an investment of funds report from the County Office of Education. So essentially, the county office takes school funds, sorry, not school funds, but funds that all school sites have invested as a whole and invests together. Obviously, the more money you put in, the more money that you would get out, essentially, when it matures. So every quarter, they send us a letter that says what they've invested in at that time and how much it's matured. So this quarter was ending in March, they're a quarter behind. And essentially stated that we received 0%, and as it was 0% in gains, so we haven't lost anything. But it's just the uncertainties with COVID, they wanted to go safe with their investment. So they wanted to stick in investments they knew that they wouldn't lose money and that over time would gain money. And so as a result of it, they deposited $28 million from Treasury agencies and spent $23 million. So they ended up, still having excess fees on their end. We just haven't received any result of it because they are waiting on property taxes, because property taxes haven't come in yet. So essentially they'll settle at the end of the quarter. So this was just saying to us that wherever they've invested all of the funds, how much was invested into each item that they funded. So we have like a treasurer's portfolio that says if it was like cash or commercial paper, if it was notes, money market, all of those items, and what the maturity is on them. So if you look, you can see that some of them have really short maturities, and then some of them have like month, year, depending on what type of investment that it is. So 0% from the quarter ending in March. And then we also discussed this recently at a CBO meeting, and they noted that they see that investments are actually going to start increasing, and also maturity on a lot of the bonds and certificates they purchase are coming up, and so that we should be receiving actually some investment money back shortly.
They should have invested in GameStop.
Who's that person that picks what they invest in?
So it is our treasurer's office, so,
Melissa
Melinda?
Yes.
Casillas.
Casillas.
And they work in conjunction with both the County Office of Education and then also the clerk recorder's office.
Okay.
So they just sent, created a report for us to see how
Wait to
everything.
hear how much we got.
Well, after 2008, they're very, very careful.
Makes sense.
Thank you. Do we have to make a motion to approve?
Let's see.
Because it just
It
says.
says, it's a discussion action item, so yes.
So I make a motion that we approve the county treasurer's investment of funds report for the quarter ending of March 31st, 2021.
Do you have a second?
Second.
Discussion? Do I have a vote?
Aye.
4-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Good night, Sarah.
Have a good night, everyone.
Yeah.
Congratulations
See
on your
pictures of your
baby.
baby. Okay, now approval of resolution proclamation of Pride Month.
So item 13B is a resolution that we're bringing forward, resolution number 33. And what this is it recognizes that California state law addresses discrimination, harassment, intimidation, and bullying towards LGBTQ plus youth. This resolution highlights the importance of celebrating and supporting our LGBTQ plus Pride Month. And the following page after the cover sheet is the actual resolution. And it allows for the district and the public to know that the district is recognizing this group, particularly during this month.
Do we want to read it?
We can absolutely read it. Anybody?
Sure, I'll read. You want to read it?
The whole thing?
I'll be happy to read it. Okay, this is, whereas June is a time to celebrate our dynamic lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, questioning community, raise awareness of quality services, and foster a dialogue to promote a healthy, safe, and prosperous school climates and communities for all. And whereas California state law addresses discrimination, harassment, intimidation, and bullying towards LGBTQ plus youth, there have been numerous studies indicating the inequities experienced by the LGBTQ plus community, including poverty, homelessness, school harassment, physical assault, domestic violence, hate crimes, mental health issues, and substance abuse concerns. And whereas studies suggest that LGBTQ plus youth are at a higher risk for substance use, sexually transmitted diseases, STDs, cancers, cardiovascular diseases, obesity, bullying, isolation, rejection, anxiety, depression, and suicide as compared to the general population. And a 2011 Institute of Medicine, IOM, report found that disparities in both mental and physical health that are seen between LGBT and heterosexual and non-gender variant youth are influenced largely by their experiences of stigma and discrimination during the development of their sexual orientation and gender identity.
Can I ask why there isn't a Q plus here? Is there a reason? That was a,
I don't know.
is that a typo?
That,
Or is it,
we can add it.
there might be a reason, I just.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, we're gonna need to add that. Whereas there is a need to focus on localized efforts and support LGBTQ plus youth, including student and school resources that focus on positive behavioral interventions and support, resources on school climate that address bullying and parent engagement, as well as tools for student health and wellness. And whereas LGBTQ plus people in the United States have made and continue to make vital contributions to the United States and to the world in every aspect, including in the fields of education, law, health, business, science, research, economic development, architecture, fashion, sports, government, music, film, technology, literature, civil rights, and politics. And whereas we are working to cultivate positive and safe school environments to empower youth with confidence and knowledge to successfully navigate and improve the ever-changing world. And whereas by recognizing Pride Month, we reaffirm our commitment to support other policies, practices, and curricula that honor and respect LGBTQ plus students, staff, their families, and all people in our community, including a commitment to research and consider board policies specific to transgender and gender nonconforming students. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Halvester School District Board of Education commits to ensuring the equal treatment of all people, regardless of sexual orientation and gender identity. Therefore, be it further resolved that the Hollister School District Board of Education designates that June 2021 as LGBTQ plus Pride Month to inspire equity, create alliances, and celebrate diversity, and passed and adopted on the 22nd day of June 2021. Do I have any discussion?
Yeah, I think that I'm really glad that we're considering this, for Pride Month, and that we're showing by doing this, we're showing our students and our staff and our community that we want to acknowledge, recognize, and celebrate our community that identifies as LGBTQ plus. So I'm really glad that we're doing this.
Having been a middle school teacher for many years, I've watched children struggle through this. And I think the more that we support and help our children, the easier it will be for them. And I thoroughly believe in this, and that I'm very, very happy that we're doing this. Okay, I would like to have a motion to approve.
I move that we approve this resolution and celebration of the LGBTQ plus Pride Month of June.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
4-0. Fix the title.
What it is that it's a direct quote. There's a second title, typo on the first paragraph where it says prosper school climates and communities. Should it be climate?
Oh, it might be a direct quote.
It might, well, the first reference that Carla made was a direct quote from the Institute of Medicine.
Yeah.
So that could be why there's not the plus there.
Oh.
And then if we're talking about school climates, I think it means like plural. We're talking about all the school.
Yeah, that's how I read it.
Climate in general, school climate. Okay.
Yeah.
But I read it as all the different schools, yeah, I read
I
that.
get what you're saying as far as the quote and being.
Oh, absolutely.
That's what I was wondering, if there was a reason
Yeah.
for it.
Okay. All right, so our next on the agenda is an oral report and action to approve the employment contract for interim assistant superintendent, Kip Ward. We, I hope you have read his contract here. And pursuant to government code, oh no, that's after. Let's see.
Do we first, make a motion or?
Well, yeah.
We would make a motion. to-
Okay, yeah, so if you've read this,
Miss, I think we found a couple, or Lisa found a couple typos. You have 1, then you have 0 on the actual contract, which should be a 2.
Right.
Then number 3, bullet 3, and then under that should be bullet 4
oh yeah.
instead of 0 zeros.
And then would 1 and 2 then be indented as like 4.1 and 4.2, or are those 5 and 6?
So
Separate.
now health and welfare, so like separate.
So they need to be 5 and 6.
Yeah. So we definitely can update the numbering on
Right,
here.
right.
The content of the contract is what we would go
Right.
on to.
No, absolutely.
Okay. And, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the contract with the edits.
And we're just the interim assistant because I know we have, yours was specific for assistant superintendent of HR. Is his gonna be assistant superintendent of?
His would be more, the way the contract is written is to allow for Kip Ward to be interim assistant superintendent in a more generalized way. To be able to meet the needs as they come up within the district during our term as interim.
Got it.
And still doing, we would look at the structure of his department, but he would need to still work with students.
And then we still have assistant in case something happens with Erica, so we've got an assistant soup just in case and.
Okay, got it. Thank you for clarifying.
Okay, so pursuant to government code section,
Do we need to make a motion first?
is that what I do
Yeah.
first? Okay, make a motion first, because I have the script I have to read.
I made a motion, we approve the contract
Okay,
for interim assistant superintendent for Kip Ward.
okay,
I second it.
all right,
All in favor?
all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, it says that pursuant to government code section 54953, subdivision C3, the board provides this oral summary of the salary and or fringe benefits for the executive position of interim assistant superintendent to be filled by Mr. Kip Ward. The term of this agreement shall commence on June 1st, 2021, and shall remain in full force until a permanent superintendent is hired and commences employment, or December 31st, 2021, whichever is earlier. The annual salary to be paid in monthly installments during this month of June 2021. There's a mistake there. And in the 2021-2022 school year is $169,875. Less all statutory and other deductions. The agreement also provides for the same health and welfare benefits as other district certificated senior management employees.
So I just want to clarify, Jan, you stated that it should commence June 1st. His contract says July 1st.
The compensation would begin June 1st because he's been serving in a role that requires him to do more than.
Direct trouble.
Which is the same that was presented for the interim superintendent position.
Okay.
So towards the bottom
That's
where
a
it says
typo?
salary, no, on the bottom where it says salary, page 1 of the contract, it does indicate the They should work together.
Commences.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Got it.
okay.
Appoint a new permanent superintendent.
We don't have the races here.
They, you checking on that?
they were trying to. Yeah.
They might come in on 30th.
Oh, okay. Okay, now we're going to do, okay. Discussion action regarding the process, to appoint permanent superintendent. I have something here I need to read. You know, we have been really impressed with Erica and her job, the job that she's been doing. So before we go out and hire an outside firm, which we have not done yet, we picked a firm, but we have not officially hired or drawn a contract with. How about we have 5 individuals from HESTA, CSEA, from the PTSO from HDLA, and someone from Calaveras who's on the DLAC committee, and then someone from either Rancho or Mesa's site council. Do in an open meeting, question and answer period with Jackie Ortej, I don't think I'm saying that correctly, who is an associate with the search firm that we are going to use. And she will be the moderator of this question and answer meeting, so that our community and the major players of our parents and our employees have a chance to engage with Erica and learn how she feels about the district and what she would like to see happen with the district. We would like to do this on July 13th at 6:30 in the evening. Is that okay with you?
That works.
Okay, so that'd be our normal Tuesday. And it'd be at 6:30 at night. That should be enough. We're gonna ask your assistant, Mrs. Villalone, to help us contact these people. We do have some guide.
Villalone, the current interim HR.
No, she's the manager of HR. We have Jackie gave us a list of questions that are not allowed to be asked. And she also gave us a list of questions that we can ask. So we will be divvying these things up, and Linda will be taking care of it. And of course, HESTA and CSEA will pick their own representative. But in regards to our parent groups, Linda we're gonna just put all of the names in hopper. I hope you guys can see it, but my giants. And she'll pick, and we'll take an alternate in case somebody can't make it. And that's how we'll do that. That's how we'll select people there until we can get somebody that can come that'll work that night. But we want our community to know Erica and to get a chance to talk with her. And we'll see how that goes.
And are we also allowing or inviting our partners to either choose a question or if they want to offer another question?
Yes, we have these questions that they can choose from. And then we also have the guidelines of things that they can ask. So they can come up with their own question if they choose to, as long as they follow the parameters.
1 or 2 questions. How many questions will they be allowed to ask?
Well, we're also gonna ask 2 questions. One question, well, 2 of us are gonna ask 1 question, so there'll be 7 questions. We'll see, sometimes 1 question will lead to another question. So we're gonna be a little free flowing on that.
And a little informal.
Yeah, a little informal that way. And I would like to see 2 questions that each group could ask.
That's 14.
Would that be too many?
That's a lot. That's a
I
lot.
think it depends on the time frame. We'll look at the time frame and see how long this is taking. We're not gonna do it.
round robin and everybody gets 1 question and then
Yeah.
as time permits, we can.
Yeah, and we can also put a time limit of 20 minutes. And it can't be more than 20 minutes.
And then can I just ask about the consultant piece? Like, what's her role?
Well, she's gonna moderate and she will, like, if she knows the law very well. And so if someone asks something inappropriate, she'll be able to say, I'm sorry, we can't ask that question.
Got it.
You know, so she'll keep us in line,
Got it.
make sure that we are only asking things that are permissible to ask in an interview.
Okay.
Because that's her job. Yeah. So any other questions?
Just for clarity, this is going to be a closed meeting. Only the invitees will be able to attend.
Yes.
We will have masks requiring and social distancing that will be provided for all of us in the room. But we do want to continue respecting, the guidance that is still precluding us from opening up these public meetings to the public, to the full public. So it will only be those being invited that will be present to do this interview with the board.
It is a closed session meeting.
It isn't. It
It
isn't
will be.
closed session because it's gonna be
Oh, it's just not
live.
not in person, but it is.
It'll be YouTube.
Okay, good.
Yes.
Well, the people will be here.
Right.
And Jackie will be here.
Right.
And we'll be here.
But closed
But
session.
the public will have to watch it on
As
YouTube.
though they were panelists, right?
Correct.
The people
Yes.
who will be here
Will
are
be like-
basically panelists.
Yes.
Perfect. Okay.
Thank you very much, Liz. Anybody else have further discussion? Do you have any questions?
No.
You- Okay, so it'll be no more than 20 minutes.
Total?
Total, yeah.
Oh, 7 questions.
Well,
I'm gonna get 14.
I think it should be time. Can we see?
I think it should be
I think 30 is a
30 is
reasonable amount of time,
normal,
because what we don't wanna do is cut
Right.
her off from being able to cut you off.
Okay,
answer.
Yeah.
All right, 30
Fully
minutes.
answer.
30 minutes?
Yes, yes.
That's okay?
That's perfect. I will be efficient with my words.
Okay.
And I just want to say, this is one of the most important
Things we do.
things that the board has on their plate to do is hire a superintendent. And it may look a little different than we've done in the past. But I don't want it to seem like we're taking away from, anything or anybody. That wasn't the intention of what it is that we're trying to do. Our overall focus is to give our district and select the right person that we feel very strongly is the right person based on what we know about her, we know that other folks may not know her the way we do, in the depth that we do. And so we want to give those partners an opportunity to get to know who she is, what her thought process is for the district moving us forward. And I think that will help bring a little bit of more ease and comfort to, the process, because it weighs on the board, and it's ultimately the board's decision on who they want to select and the process to go about it. And I didn't want to just kind of leave it as, wait, what's going on? I don't understand.
Well, I think one thing needs to be said is that as president of the board, I have had, and I looked it up, and I have had site administrators, I've had district administrators, and I have had many teachers, and I have had CSEA members all email me about stop the search. We just need to hire Erica. And so with that, I think that we need to listen to those people. But I also think our community needs to get a share. And so we need to open this up, and that's why we're doing this. And we want our community to see what we see. So that's, I need a motion, please.
Real quick, can I
Yes.
also say that, I think a lot of people, the feedback I've received about our future permanent superintendent has been that this person understands, what the direction of the district is, that this person provides consistency, that this person be local. I heard that loud and clear from everybody, right? And you fit those, besides your, the other things that everybody says. And you're bilingual.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think.
And a female. And how many female superintendents have we had?
Actually, you'll be the third. Yeah.
So it's something
Right,
to,
and
to acknowledge.
right. But I also think that any board that does not hire a bilingual superintendent, they
With our demographics, as we were looking, 81%, Hispanic, Latino, we would be doing our district a disservice at this point of where we are with the changes that we're wanting to implement and the critical junction that we're in right now. And for me, Erica, it's like the full circle coming back, your story that you shared at, the promotion ceremony at Mays, to have come and be one of those migrant children and be that role model to so many of our kids in this district, to see your accomplishment, to see themselves in you and have that ability is so powerful. And that just, we did something right, in that sense, because you were raised here, you went through our school system, you're coming back and giving back. And that can't be understated, in my opinion. And to me, it's an honor to have you in our district and for you to be at the helm moving us forward just makes the most sense for all of us.
Thank you. It's my honor to serve in this capacity right now, and I really appreciate and thank the board and the rest of our staff and our community for believing and trusting in the fact that I'm wanting to lead for our children. It's for our students. This is for all of us. It's not about me, and I see it that way. This is about us, as a community. So thank you. The honor is mine.
I'm looking at homegrown Aaron over here. Yeah, that's,
See, this is what Hollister School District does, right?
Yeah. Well, that's, when we think about our children and, we can't say enough what the parents did this year. Look what they did this year. And those test scores didn't happen all by themselves. Parents really did a lot. Did we vote on this now?
Are we supposed to take action on this decision?
It's in the discussion action item, yes, because, we needed to set the date, well, we did. The date is July 13th
At 6:30, you
at
said.
6:30.
And it says the recommended motion is that that we just discussed the process, so.
Okay, well, we did,
that.
okay, so,
Oh, wait a minute, I think I went ahead, sorry.
no, that's what I have.
Oh, it is,
Discuss the
okay,
process to.
Yeah. That's what I have.
yes, we don't agree.
Okay, so do I have a motion?
Well, I think we're all in agreement to.
Okay, well, let's just do a vote. Do I have an agreement? Yes. I want to vote.
Yes, to the process of inviting,
Right,
you
okay.
know, the
Inviting our
stakeholders
community,
and
stakeholders,
stakeholders at this special meeting on July 13th at 6:30 to be able to ask our interim superintendent designated questions for us to then make a determination.
Right. Okay,
Second?
all right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, 4-0. Okay, now we need an approval for declaration need of fully qualified educators for the 2021-2022.
We do this all the time, right?
Yes.
It's an annual discussion action item, and it is a routine procedure that allows for the districts to notify the California Teaching Commission that there potentially would be a need to place staff on specialized permits. So this is, again, done annually. The estimated number of need sometimes, is not what we need. It's a lot less than, but it gives us a cushion and an ability in HR to be able to hire somebody with a limited type of once-in-a-lifetime permit and allow for them to teach in our schools to fill a vacancy. It also would allow for us to assign a credentialed staff member to a different area if they, if the need was there. Again, it's a routine action item that is done annually, and we send this paperwork to the CTC.
I just have questions since I'm new to the board. Do we have interns every year? Because I was noticing,
We have teacher interns every year,
okay,
pretty much.
nice.
Any other questions? May I have a motion? So moved. Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Closed session?
I think we just have a short closed session. Okay, I need a motion to close open session.
I make a motion that we.
Oh, wait, we have closing. Wait. We have board member reports. Well, everybody went to the opening of our brand new school. Any thoughts or feelings about that? Lisa?
I was really impressed. I mean, it was my first time on the campus. And so I was able to, thank you, and Meilani's kind of showed us a couple of the rooms and the special rooms. And it's a campus that I would be very excited to either have my child go to or be a student at and actually even work at. I think it would be hard to leave. It's so beautifully done, well appointed, state of the art. It's really going to be something. And they're creating a really cool culture over there. So I'm excited for next year.
I am too. My grandson is so excited.
Is he going there?
Oh, is he gonna
yeah,
go?
yeah,
Sweet.
Yeah, he and his mom will walk every day. And, yeah.
That's great. They did a great job with the presentation too.
Mhm.
Carla did.
Having those students there,
Yeah,
that was awesome.
yeah, it was a good representation too. A lot of people showed up.
Anissa did a great job.
Oh,
She
yes.
just, you know, partnering with everyone, and I told Aaron, I mean, his speech was
Yeah,
like a highlight, and just how it felt like a community, it was a community effort, and everybody
was.
was like happy, and even if you don't have kids there, you're just like, we did this, and so just,
Yeah.
you know,
I just love our community and our county, and I was really thankful that the mayor was there.
yeah.
And you know, having Red there, because, you know, I worked with Red until he retired, from 1990 until he retired, and I know that was in the early 2000s. So I worked for them good 10, 12 years. And then he's on our, you know, the school board for the COE, so it's just nice. I just, yeah, it was a good day. Very good day. Any other board reports? Nope. How about future agenda items? One is to approve the pay raise.
Yes,
Sure, our people would like us to do
that
that.
would be great.
Is that something that we would be considering at the next special board meeting?
I guess.
If it's been ratified by both unions, pending ratification.
Right.
You know what else wasn't on today's and it was supposed to be? The RISE program.
That's
Under the
right.
presentation.
That was supposed to be, because we've been asked, well, I've been requesting that some months ago.
We will get that. The other thing I know is that there was for a future agenda item, the governance.
Yes.
Governance calendar.
Yeah.
But there was an interest in CSBA and the Masters of Governance.
Oh,
Yeah,
that
right.
too,
Yes,
absolutely.
the classes.
Yes.
Um,
And also, I think I'd like to talk more about our communications person and how we can better utilize them. And,
yeah,
yeah, what plans we have for that.
I agree. I agree with you. But I don't know if we can get it on that June 30th meeting.
Well, no, I mean, but isn't this just a table for like future agenda items, not
Yes,
necessarily for the next meeting?
okay, yeah, I just wanted to
Yeah.
clarify, I don't think we can get it on.
Yeah,
that
it doesn't
time.
need to happen immediately, but I mean,
Okay,
if we're talking
okay.
about, right.
That is the RISE one.
Because I'll
Next time.
forget.
Yes, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, well, I definitely, pay raise has to be in there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, it just depends on the ratification.
Thank you, Erin.
Thank you, Erin.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, we need to get it.
We will do it remotely.
Oh, there
Oh,
you
there you go.
Oh, to your